0 powers, 0 friends, 0 knowledge of the current world, 0 physical stats, and a lack of a weapon. You're definitely dead, right? If you're the main protagonist of this isekai story, you definitely won't be. He doesn't have any superpowers, but don't underestimate him, because he is much more cunning than even your average villain, and will do anything to succeed in his goals. Ready to explore another story of a savage manipulator? Let's dive right in. Opening his eyes for the first time in an unknown forest, the man realizes that he has just been transported to another planet. The way he got here is so embarrassing that he isn't going to explain that part. Things immediately dial up to 100 for him as he is attacked by a grueling bear who is staring down its prey. The man has no options at his disposal and wonders what he should do in this potentially life-ending situation. He idiotically tries to communicate with the bear, only to receive a growl that frightens him for his life. However, the bear is suddenly attacked and engulfed in a capsule of slime, entrapping it inside, before burning his remains in an eerie fashion. The incident takes place right before the man's eyes, who thinks that he might have witnessed something cursed. Matters get even worse when the slime tries to hunt for him next. Knowing that he is about to become KFC as a human, the man braces for his life. However, the slime isn't capable of killing him and flees elsewhere instead. Life is moving too fast for the man to comprehend what's happening, and he tries to think about what he should be doing. After the escape from the monster slime, the man is faced with a bundle of monsters in the forest, and manages to survive them all using the SSS class Ultra Mega Super Wooden Sword. Just kidding, it's really just a stick that he was flailing around. The man managed to find a bunch of humans too, only to discover that they were savages, who cannibalized and targeted their own kind. Bro's got the worst luck on the planet. Upon finding a positive sign of his first road, he found himself moved to tears, to the point he scribbled a message on the tree, because his wildlife was just a roller coaster of emotions. The man tells the readers that his journey up to this point has been hectic, and he thinks that one could only imagine how he felt the second he laid his eyes on what appeared to be a human castle. At this point, he really didn't care and wanted to meet some people. News flashed for him, and he got himself behind bars because the guard thought he was trespassing like a bandit. They also spoke a language beyond the understanding of the pitiable man, who decided to take a nap in the meantime. Reminiscing about his terrible journey, the man overviews how he got attacked by a bear, followed by a slime monster, and then found himself in jail when he thought he was going to be freed. Dude's life dialed straight down to hell in an instant after coming to this world. He thinks that his life can't get any worse than the current hell he has just faced. However, that's exactly when an astounding knight ends up hitting him with her sword before wearing a smile in front of him. The man thought that he might have just found his first sign of a compassionate human. That expectation blew up right in his face because he gets kidnapped right in the next scene by the same woman. While stuffed in a sack, the man doesn't even know where he is being taken and why this is happening in the first place. Haha, bro can't catch a darn break. Arriving at their destination, the man finds himself surprised that he can interpret their language now. In this church-like structure, the sister explains that she used a possession spell on the man, allowing the target to understand their language by using a spirit as a means of communication. Faced with this realization, the man realizes that it's some kind of translator spirit and explains that he can't understand a million things upon arriving in this world, and that he doesn't expect them to believe him. The sister claims that she's fine with that because she is adept at telling lies. The man finds himself moved once again and thinks that she is pretty cooperative. He also thinks that the ability to tell lies would be quite convenient for navigating the world. The man finally shares that he has been transported here from another world, with his name remaining anonymous to the readers. Manga author ran out of ideas and said, "I'll just gatekeep the main character's name." Yikes. The sister and the knight both doubt his story, but it's the best explanation he can offer. However, the moment he mentions escaping the forest, the sister is shocked and questions whether he truly managed to escape from the horrifying Black Demon Lord's Killer Mountain, a place where not even a dragon dares to approach. If you think that name sounds like a mouthful, the protagonist also shares your thoughts, calling it a jumble of a name. The man realizes that this world also has the existence of dragons and strangely wants to see one for the first time. The sister also explains that the bear must have eaten a special fruit known as the rye fruit, which made the creature stumble into the slime monster's nest unconsciously. In fact, the clumsy protagonist also ate such a fruit, but gets ridiculed by the sister because his mana is so low that the effect doesn't even matter. Bro got Loki roasted. On the topic of mana, the man thinks that he's not as strong as those isekai fantasy protagonists, who look physically weak but have hidden abilities. The sister bursts his little bubble, claiming that it's the opposite for him because he possesses an absurdly low amount of mana, to the point she wants to pity him. Oh, hell nah, bro got high-key roasted. The man's expectations are shattered, and he realizes that he didn't gain any powers upon arriving in this world. In fact, he compares himself to an insect in this world and realizes that the slime wasn't even serious about eating such a lowly pest in the first place. Oddly enough, he finds it grateful that he was ignored as a small fry and saved in the process. The knight is barely impressed that he could survive up to this point without any equipment to begin with. He gets offended and states that he's got his incredible wooden stick, which is his most reliable partner. She's weirded out as much as anyone would be by his words. Imagine being such a loser that your only friend is a damn tree branch. The knight goes on to claim that he should be grateful not to have met the bandits, because they really are the definition of death if one encounters them in the forests. Because of his encounters with the strange people in the forest, the man confesses that he did, in fact, spot a bunch of those people. His revelation shocks the knight, who is eager to uncover their location, and annoys the living hell out of him for it. The sister tells Elias to stop shaking the life out of him, leaving him dying for breath. The man thinks that she is the devil herself, and that he nearly just died because of her monstrous strength. They're certain that their new visitor doesn't recall the exact location. However, this is when the protagonist remembers that he scribbled a message into the tree as a guide. Elias the knight can't afford to stay put, and wants to act immediately by assembling a subjugation squad. The man finds himself being responsible for their guide, while Elias Ratzel introduces herself as a knight of the kingdom, who received the order to subjugate the treacherous mountain bandits. The scene switches to the sight of the bandits in the forest, who are discussing horrifying cravings. One of the bandits gets his head blasted by a gigantic arrow, with the rest of them using detection magic and fleeing from the site. The protagonist is amazed that these bandits can even use magic, and terms them the magical bandits. Ahaha, they sound more like the heroes instead. Elias the knight is also interested in obliterating the rest of the bandit troops in one swoop, by cornering them in the cave. Her men chase after them with extraordinary speed, and the traveler also thinks that they're nearly as strong as Elias herself. The knight warns him to stay close for his own safety, while the rest proceed to crush the bandits with powerful blows. Elias commands them not to kill the ones who intend to surrender, and Elias' squad manages to hammer down on each bandit. Elias herself stops a giant boulder with relative ease and questions if their strength is just for show. Elias wants to enact justice by answering to the sins of the bandits, and uses her blade to sever them in cold blood. When the mist clears, Elias is left standing, ordering her men to search for any remains of the bandits who escaped, and to recover the survivors for intel. Impressed by her abilities, the traveler thinks that he might have developed permanent trauma seeing the gore. Bro is scared for his life. Elias finds herself insulted for a moment, while the traveler questions why she refused to draw her sword. Elias claims that she doesn't want to use her sword to be stained with the blood of the dirty bandits. The traveler bullies her, and it might have been that she couldn't draw her sword out of the scabbard. His insulting remark nearly makes her want to shave his head off, while he begs for his life. How could you say something so controversial, yet so brave be like? With the subjugation of the bandits, the knights captured 7 survivors from their operation, with the rest of them confirmed to have been killed during the mission. There were also no signs of bandits that fled from the site. At this point, the protagonist is used to being carried by Elias and questions his life. He doesn't know why he was transported into this world in the first place and states that it is glaringly obvious for him to be lacking in all traits. He also knows that he's not some kind of descendant of a powerful hero with latent abilities either. Dude just got tossed into another world and didn't even get any main character buffs. Unreal. He wonders if this is simply because of the will of God, who is toying with him, or perhaps a failed summoning ritual that resulted in his demise. He thinks that the harsh treatment of leaving him to die at the mountain was inconsiderate of the person who sent him here. The man wants to live peacefully in life, not caring about some grandiose goal of beating a level 999 demon lord, or even the thought of forming a harem. All he wants is to live life peacefully and securely in this dangerous world. Inside the certain forest of the Tai's kingdom, the leader of the mountain bandits is reported about the defeat of one of his groups. Smirking at their downfall and showing no signs of compassion, Dakala emphasizes that the kingdom fears his wrath a lot more than just the torture of a simple knight. In the conference room of the Kingdom of Ties, King Marito Ties congratulates Elias the Knight for leading a successful subjugation mission against the mountain bandits. Unfortunately, they were unable to unveil any crucial information and requested more time. Lord Leonor raises an objection and attacks Elias's gender, stating that a woman could never concoct proper torture of the bandits. Leonor wants his squad to take over the mission instead, a comment that makes Elias annoyed and embarrassed. This dude must be the Andrew Tate of this world, like what? With his obscene comment under question, Leonor apologizes and claims that Elias' squad is smaller and has limited movement and efficiency compared to his squad, comprising 300 knights, who can move with incredible speed. Leonor claims that he is also fed up with the issue of the bandits and offers Elias his hand anytime she needs their help. Switching the scene back to the worthless and clumsy traveler, he is munching on his meal, eating the world's food for the first time and finding it rather delectable. The traveler recalls the events of last night and how tired he was, heading to sleep without consuming a single meal. He remembers the hospitable, kind older man who introduces himself with yet another fashionably long name. The traveler can't even catch a drift of the name, and is told to call him Grandpa Kara in the meantime. Bro keeps running into people with names longer than the words in the dictionary. What the heck? Grandpa Kara takes him to the knight Elias, who wants the traveler's assistance with some ideas. Elias shares that their interrogation has proved to be worthless against the bandits, and that they're unable to capture all of the bandits because of their unique methods of exchanging information. The traveler is surprised because he thought that with the strength of her squad, they could easily capture them. The knight winces that even with sending baits, she couldn't catch any wind of bandits, as they use detection magic to avoid bumping into their knights, which is why their baits couldn't work. The detection magic operates by detecting beings with a concentration of mana, which basically makes it a kind of thermosensor in his eyes. The man suggests that they can also use detection magic to catch the bandits instead. However, Elias explains that their scattered magic sealing stones are the reason that makes that strategy useless. Elias showcases the use of a magic stone, as it is a stone capable of sealing magic, with its effects varying based on size. The man thinks that with the existence of these magic sealing stones, the mages probably face quite the difficulty of operating at all. Elias claims that the magic warriors can still use magic if they avoid the sealing stones. However, the moment a war breaks out, a gigantic magic sealing stone covers the entire battlefield and eliminates their magic. Yo, someone call Phanos, because the dude apparently missed a few infinity stones. Long story short, magic is handicapped and doesn't see the light of day in this world. The man offers the idea of using hypnosis magic to force the bandits to confess. Elias explains that the magic does exist, but it will not work, because the bandits have planted a small magic stone inside of their heads, which sounds like quite a commitment. There is also the fact that the bandits will die if the stone is removed, which is, once more, quite the commitment. Finally, the man suggests that he should be the one conducting the interrogation process instead. And, oh boy, one would expect him to succeed with flying colors, but he's instead scolded and taunted for being a weak-looking bean sprout. The brooding thug is in no mood to cooperate, making the protagonist realize that he is faced with a stubborn opponent in this mental battle. He knows that the thug's body is full of scars and realizes that the bandit was tortured brutally. Using this as a crutch, he takes a different approach and tells the bandit that he will likely be faced with a death sentence. However, the bandit is only aware of this outcome until the traveler points to the fact that it would be unwise not to communicate, knowing that their days are numbered. He claims that his fellow bandits have probably already cut him off after he got captured, which means that the logical option for this thug is to confess information to save himself. The traveler adopts an assertive approach and questions the man about the reason he is choosing to keep his mouth shut. He offers the thug the chance to spill the reason he is keeping his mouth shut in exchange for lowering his sentence. Failure to comply with this condition will mean that his fate will be left up to the knights, which is the perfect setting that the traveler is aiming for. Finally, the thug explains that it would be inconsequential for him to die, as a particular someone is capable of granting them eternal fear, something beyond the tortures of the knights. The traveler capitalizes on these words and realizes that there is an external force responsible for all of this. Coming back to the sister, he asks for a magic stone, that can manipulate the souls of the dead. Mahia is shocked and wonders what Elias has done to the poor novice. He tells her that he is looking for Mahia's help specifically, and she also confirms that a stone that calls the souls of the dead with magic indeed exists. The stone is considered forbidden, but the man points out that it only makes the value of the stone priceless for everyone. Mahia clarifies that he shouldn't be casually discussing its existence in front of the people, as he might even be punished with a death sentence by even talking about it in some countries. The man is shocked that the matter of the stone is serious to such an extent. Mahia explains that there were people who actually brought some people back to life using the stone. However, those who rose up from the dead became humanity's greatest enemy, as they all became literal demon lords. This is an answer that he wasn't expecting, and he realizes that even demon lords exist in the world. The man thinks that it's only reasonable to consider it forbidden magic, and thinks that the stone might be different from the fear that the bandits are afraid of. Mahia claims that there is also a death spirit spell. Interestingly enough, the traveler is intrigued and questions the details. Mahia tells him that the spirit spell doesn't revive the target with perfection, but the magic is capable of dragging out the person's soul and humiliating them in the living world. It is like reviving someone in their destroyed flesh and making them work for them, like monsters or cattle for sacrifice. She thinks that it is the worst fate and the worst evil imaginable. When he asks an intriguing question about their consciousness, Mahia is impressed with his inquiry and tells him that he's asking stupidly hard questions. The traveler tells her that he is interested in knowing about the tragedies of the death spirit spell. Mahia elaborates that she has once fought such a spell user. She and her squad were forced to annihilate the monsters created by the spell, many of them being half-dead screamers. She still remembers sharing a creepy interaction with one of the undead monsters, who muttered words of gratitude before his death, as if to say that it had been freed from suffering. Her explanation is enough for the traveler, who thanks her before leaving. Mahia requests Elias to watch over him carefully, because he's quite used to the malicious side of the world, despite not being a terrible person himself. Mahia wholeheartedly believes that he's a dangerous figure, who can easily lose the light of his path. Damn, she just made him sound cooler than he is. Coming back to the interrogation room, the man tries to introduce himself, but gets intimidated by the brooding thugs who want nothing to do with his demands. However, the second he spews information about the death spirit spell, all of the men freeze in place. With their composure cracked, the man finds an easy opening and declares that he has gotten an understanding of their situation, and has come here to give them a proposal to change their execution dates. He claims that he will help them delay the execution date until after the spirit spell user has been completely defeated, in exchange for their confession, allowing them the chance to die as humans. His cold, dark words strike fear and hesitation in the hearts of the men in the room as he signals the start of the interrogation. Walking towards them, he states that they only stand to benefit from his proposal by giving information about the spirit user. He tells them that their leader will obviously be upset, but the thugs won't be executed until a later date, allowing them a life of comfort until the death of the mastermind himself and ending their lives as humans. He shares that it's only logical to die as a human instead of choosing to be tortured after death. The thugs show doubts about his proposal, but he ensures them that he doesn't benefit by executing them so soon either. One of the thugs objects to the fact that they're still going to be executed despite the confession. The traveler declares that their current situation is equally as dangerous as if they tried to corner the mastermind by sheer luck, and cornered him, he will start to believe that he was betrayed by one of his own people. The man reminds them that his first doubts will only be to think of his people. He gives them a final offer: either abandon the fear of the death spirit spell user, or die earlier than the rest of them combined. With his proposal declared, he gives them a time limit of a day to decide their choice and think about their choices carefully. Saying those words, he exits the room and comes back to find Elias and Grandpa Kara completely stunned by his performance. Grandpa Kara thinks that he's got the talent to become a savvy merchant, while Elias wonders if the thugs will truly even flinch with this approach. The man is aware that his approach might end up useless, which is why he asks Grandpa Kara for another favor. Whispering in his ear secretly, he leaves the both of them shocked by his cunning and scoundrel ways. He begs Grandpa Kara to do the job for him, and the older man accepts, seeing that there isn't any other method left. Haha, they know this guy is using level 999 IQ manipulation on those fools. In their cells, the first thug that the traveler interrogates realizes that he can't even discuss or strategize with the rest of his mates. Suddenly, a vision plays through his mind as he remembers the torturous effects of the death spirit spell, being reduced to zombie-like corpses with rotten flesh. Grandpa Kara comes to find that none of the bandits have confessed so far. The thugs are confident and still not interested in sharing a confession. Grandpa Kara openly claims that only 3 of the bandits will have delayed executions, with the rest being executed all at once. Because of this strange announcement, the thug finds himself perplexed. He suddenly thinks that their interrogator planned for all of this and decides to use this as an opportunity to secure his chance. He calls for the guards and claims that he is willing to speak in front of the interrogator. Grandpa Kara is surprised that someone is eager to confess even now. He tells him to write the confession on paper instead. The thug is faced with a difficult thought, knowing that if the 3 of them confess, the other 4 will still be punished brutally until death. He doesn't know what he should be doing and decides to write up all of the information and the important details. Nah, dude is writing down those details like it's the most important exam of his life. After much of the writing, the notes are compiled and sent to the traveler the next day. Elias explains that 5 men confessed and is about to hand him the documents when she questions the kind of life he lived in his previous world. Elias is aware that magic didn't exist in the previous world, but doesn't know much about anything else. She's the most embarrassed that his actions are crude enough to violate their code of chivalry. Elias explains that he used a method that she didn't like by taking advantage of others. The man explains that he's someone completely normal, who wants to live a peaceful life. Elias has trouble accepting his explanation, finding it impossible for it to be the case. The man tells her that living peacefully means living without making trouble in the world, and in his original world, he was able to gain insight into other people, much more than in his current world. It is because of his experience dealing with many people that he is able to differentiate between those with good intentions and those who do not. That is why, in his previous world, he had to protect himself by arming himself with substantial knowledge, ensuring that no one could bother him. Whoa, so he's got that light Yagami brain. Elias questions his real personality and what side of him is real. The man claims that he's both sides at once, and points out that even Elias herself acts differently in front of citizens and normal people. He further states that he's different from her, as he changes his behavior according to other people. Annoyed by his rationale, Elias inquires if he is willing to see evil in the eye by becoming evil himself. The man denies and states that he is someone who merely understands evil. His words leave her speechless, and she thinks that he's like a warped mirror. Elias is beginning to understand that living peacefully is much harder than she thought. In the next scene, Mahia, along with Elias and the traveler, discuss the details they received from the note of the bandits. They have come to the realization that the bandits formed an organization called the Bandit Alliance, and its leader is a one-armed death spirit spell user known as Dakala. They even got a sketch of him, with Mahia explaining that this man had been part of the kingdom's assignation squad before, except one day when he broke the taboo and was instead put on a wanted list. Dakala changed his life and turned to atrocious acts in the neighboring country of Garn. The man wrestles with the information and realizes that Dakala is a cunning individual who used his knowledge as an assassination squad member and made excellent decisions to guide the bandits against the Kingdom Knights. Whoa, he's setting up to be an S-tier villain, no cap. The scene shifts to the traveler standing in the marketplace, where he reflects on the prosperity of the kingdom. He is amazed and realizes that he couldn't inspect the place properly the first time because he got kidnapped by a certain someone. He shares that the king must be someone brilliant, something that Elias agrees with, stating that the current and the previous kings wonderfully governed the kingdom in consideration of their people. Elias is a proud knight who finds joy in serving her country as a loyal guard. She also tells him that more merchants are bound to come from abroad because of their flourishing country. The man is more interested in facing off with the Bandit Alliance, which bears quite the size for them to deal with. Elias thinks that she can just summon Lord Ragdo's platoon of knights. However, when the traveler questions their number, she mentions that they're 30 in total, which is strikingly low for their needs. The traveler questions why she isn't asking for the cooperation of the other knight squads. His question makes her uneasy, as Elias has faced mistreatment in the castle and realizes that she shouldn't worry about her perceptive ability. Elias knows that she should prioritize the safety of the citizens and states that she will issue an appeal for an assembly for the cooperation cooperation of the rest of the knights. The traveler insists that the assembly be held at the barracks because an outsider like him won't be able to enter the castle. He showed a devious smile and mentioned that executing his plan would be difficult if he was not physically present. Yes, sir, Sherlock Holmes is cooking something. Moving forward to the scene of the castle, Ilias has gathered her comrades and claims that she will be discussing the details of the bandit situation. However, in the midst of her sentence, she is cut short by Leaner, who takes over the conversation and claims that someone needs to be appointed as the supreme commander of the knights first. He hears the opinions of the various knight lords, stating the number of troops they have. Smirking at their low numbers, Leaner claims that his squad consists of a staggering 300 knights, which is why he wants to lead their command. Trust me bro, you're not that guy, you're not. The traveler is observing this conversation and realizes that it's the same shameful guy he heard about from Grandpa Kara. The traveler thinks that the pride of being a man or a woman doesn't really amount to anything, and finds Leaner to be narrow-minded in all ways. The rest of the knights appoint Leaner their temporary leader for the charge, while Grandpa Kara exclaims that their achievements have been made possible because of Ilia's contributions. He also points to the traveler and requests that he agree with his statement. However, Leaner turns to the senior knight and questions the identity of the traveler. Grandpa Kara pushes him forward and claims that the man is responsible for providing the necessary formation for their mission. Leaner realizes that an outsider is being used and questions if the traveler has any objections to his leadership. The traveler states that it's a logical decision for the biggest squad to take over and approves of Leaner's position. However, he states that even the supreme commander would require the details of their operation. He lays down a map and discusses the strategy. The traveler claims that they have already marked the whereabouts of the main base, along with the movement patterns of the bandits. Leaner is impressed by the traveler's preparedness, who goes on to assign Leaner to deal with the main base, where the boss is waiting for them. Leaner likes this idea, while the traveler goes on to assign the rest of the squads their own crucial points. The traveler asks if any of the knights are willing to cooperate with Ilias and her squad. The room falls to silence, to which he states that they'll put her on standby as support, to move in whenever a squad suffers major losses in the battle. The rest of the knights are content with this distribution, while Ilias becomes embarrassed and feels betrayed that he didn't grant her a proper role. The traveler tries to convince her that being supportive is also an important role, and barely manages to convince her in the end. The traveler is exhausted because he's not being carried for the first time, and doesn't have the physical strength to catch up to the knights in speed. He once again pities himself for not receiving any physical boosts upon arriving in this world, not even some kind of stamina to help him. It doesn't take long for the traveler to eventually faint because of the depletion of his stamina. Damn, bro's got level 100 intelligence and level 1 physique training arc when. The scene switches to the front lines, where Leaner and his group are fighting off the bandits. Leaner orders his battalion to exterminate those who underestimated the strength of the kingdom, leaving no one alive. Leaner is also impressed by the insight he received about the enemy's location from the traveler, and thinks that his behavior is praiseworthy. However, he is not content with Ilia's achievements, who also became a crucial component in the mission. Leaner finds himself amped up and aims to hunt for precious achievements by taking down the main base of the bandits in this operation. However, he comes to find a horrifying realization: a corpse of the dead is changing form. Leaner discovers that the death spirit spell is being used from the shadows. Over to Dokala's side, he is reported about the raid of the knights from the kingdom, and that their entire base has been surrounded. The bandits' leader is surprised that one of his men ratted them out to such a level. However, Dokala isn't blindsided at all and, in fact, has prepared a plan for this special situation. The cursed corpses begin rising from their slumber to attack Leaner's squad. Leaner himself cuts them apart and is hit with disbelief because his squad also possesses magic sealing stones, which makes it all the more confusing how magic could be used in such a place. Leaner instructs his faction to try not to die, or else they, too, will rise up as undead for them to defeat. He also calls for the use of purifying magic to strategize and get rid of the corpse assailants. Leaner is aware of the fact that his very own group could end up turning into the undead, and the thought of such an uprising is far too dangerous for him. Faced with this difficult situation, he finds himself paralyzed. On the flip side, Dokala is celebrating, having used the corpses of his fallen men for his own advantage. His subordinate questions how Dokala is capable of deploying magic, even when the knights possess many of the sealing stones. Dokala explains that the magic sealing stone is only a convenient item, However, there is one thing that everyone glances over. It is a fact that the stones don't disperse the whole of the magic, only its composition. Docala states that the deaf spirit spell is different from the other magic, as it is forbidden, and inserts a soul inside the corpse, making it rampage as an undead monster. This type of magic is also rumored to have destroyed an entire country in the past. Its most attractive side is the fact that the undead are capable of releasing mana that affects their surrounding corpses. Docala claims that it would never have mattered if they had used magic sealing stones in the first place, because he is capable of infinitely using the corpses to make the undead. All he did was hide some of the corpses inside the barriers of his camp, with the condition of the barrier dispersing upon the detection of magic stones. That's how he released the rampaging undead on the knights, as he had foreseen the invasion beforehand. Docala also explains that if one is too close to an undead during their death, they will also resurrect as a monster. Giving a slight laugh, Docala thinks that the foolish knights have only killed off the pawns that he never needed in the first place, perfecting the rest of his army. However, a particular voice of the knight shouts from above as she disapproves of his gratitude. Standing atop the cliff underneath the full moon, Ilias Ratzel declares that she will put an end to Docala's evil schemes, once and for all. Docala is astounded that someone was able to discover his hideout, questioning how it was even possible. Ilias stands before him, while he posits that it couldn't have been the knights who discovered his escape path. Ilias confirms that she is, in fact, the one who found the path on her own. Her response sends him into a spiral, because the bandit leader knows that someone so easy to read as Ilias would never come up with the strategy of using her comrades as bait. Docala knows that the one responsible for concocting the strategy is also here, and states that this mysterious man is also a scum no different than the bandits. Bro's wearing some anti-gaslighting armor because he knows what's up. The traveler comes forth and catches up to Ilias before telling Grandpa Kara to take care of the rest. Docala questions if he is the one who came up with the strategy, even though the bandit leader isn't impressed by his looks. The traveler clarifies that he is indeed the weakest among all the knights. Docala is in the mood to chat and questions how he was able to find the cave. The traveler responds that it was a mere accident while he was lost on the mountain. Docala then wonders how he was able to make his men confess the location, to which the traveler responds that he delayed their execution until the matter of the death spirit spell user. Finally, Docala asks the most important question, the question of the kind of sorcery he used to track them down and to discover the exact location. For the grand reveal, the traveler tells him that he used comprehension. Yeah, it's not really a superpower, it's just using your brain. The traveler reflects, having expected Docala to use an escape strategy in the middle of the battle. He knew that the bandits' leader was a cunning individual, which is why an escape strategy didn't seem like an impossible assumption. It's also the fact that Docala ruled over the bandits by making use of the death spirit spell, paired with the raid of Ilias the Knight. He internalizes that they couldn't find any undead corpses the other day, which means that Docala must have taken them away for another purpose. He knew that the leader of the bandits had prepared the corpses for a difficult time, such as the current raid of the knights. You're telling me this guy read him like a book? Bro is overpowered, without even having any powers. Docala is struck in awe by the eyes of the traveler, displaying the ruthlessness of a mad villain. The traveler corrects him, stating that he is a peace-loving citizen. Docala thinks that a regular citizen would never have been capable of understanding his mind and thinks that if he's a regular citizen, then a villain must be a mystery. The traveler honestly thinks about the answer and states that the villain would be able to do anything that one can imagine. Got him. The main character is more cunning than the actual villain. Docala reflects that the man in front of him doesn't bear any resemblance to any clan that he knows of. That's when he drops a bombshell of a revelation, deducing that the traveler is someone from Earth. His perfect deduction alarms the traveler, whose face is enough to prove Docala that he is right. Faced with hesitation and surprise, he questions Docala's knowledge of the planet Earth. The bandit leader hysterically claims that he knows about the planet and that the death spirit, along with the atrocious revive magic, are actually heinous taboos that share their origin from Earth in the first place. The traveler wrestles with his thoughts, wondering how it could even be possible for someone on Earth to create revive magic in the first place. He turns to find Ilias equally as puzzled, and contemplates that Docala couldn't be lying about their situation. He knows that if Elias goes ahead and kills the man, it would only prove troublesome for him to find his answers. The traveler questions what else the bandit leader knows about Earth. Dakala explains that it's really true, that his spell is a gift he acquired from them, and thinks that the man should look for the clues himself. Dakala then proceeds to plot an attack against the traveler, who is incapable of responding in time. Thankfully, Elias parries both daggers and orders him not to move an inch from where he is standing because, otherwise, he will be dead meat. Girl power protecting our boy from being cut into sushi. As for Dakala, he orders his group of bandits to attack the knight, claiming that he will turn them into the undead immediately for half-heartedly trying. Dakala himself is faced with the blade of Elias, who exchanges equal blows with her opponent. Dakala praises Elias, stating that he has never seen such a strong knight as her in his own kingdom. Dakala questions why she is staying quiet, while Elias manages to bore him. The bandit leader claims that a woman like herself could become a knight captain, and decides to use his secret weapon, knowing that he stands no chance otherwise. Dude knows that he would have been clapped in a 1v1. Dakala throws a mystical object in the air, which alarms Elias, who tells her knights to envelop the traveler in a barrier. Elias claims that Dakala is once again deploying the death spirit spell. The bandit leader is impressed that she is catching on, and states that he's got even stronger troops this time, as this time, the army of the undead is willing to do anything he orders them to. This becomes evident as undead forces begin their outrage against Elias' knights. She remembers defeating the undead in the cave. Dakala confirms that it is indeed the same person who has returned from the dead because of the grudge he bears against Elias. He also curiously wonders what Elias has in store for her opponent, emphasizing that the spell won't stop, even if Dakala is killed in the process. Wielding her weapon, Elias decides to take care of the vile mana instead. She instructs her units to jump all together, surprising the likes of the traveler. Elias faces Dakala, who throws his reserve of magic, sealing stones in an effort to thwart her use of magic. However, Elias completely throws him off guard, delivering a slash so lethal that it severs the surrounding mana with a single strike. Elias encourages Dakala to use the remainder of his tricks, because he is going to need them really soon. Knowing that he has little room to play around, Dakala uses a smoke bomb and tries to run away. Elias calls him a lousy coward. However, he doesn't anticipate a spear penetrating both his legs as he flops to the ground. This guy's never hitting leg day ever again. Dakala has nowhere to run and thinks that Elias deployed a shameful strategy. However, the traveler corrects the bandit leader, claiming that he came up with the strategy instead. Dakala thinks that his timing is too perfect. It is revealed that their main strategy was to allow Dakala to think that he could escape, blindsiding him to potential plans. He took advantage of Dakala's confidence in the end. The bandit leader muses about his comprehension ability and actually feels proud that he got caught up in someone else's perfect strategy. He also thinks that he could have found a good friend in his meeting, under different situations. They casually chit-chat as if they had known each other for a long time. Dakala shares his parting gift with the traveler, telling him to seek his hidden base for something he would appreciate. Elias is about to strike him down, while the bandit leader inquires for the traveler's name as his final wish. However, the moment he is about to utter his name, Dakala's head gets severed clean, as he dies with a smile on his face. That's an S-tier villain right there, straight up badass until the end. Elias questions the traveler, wondering why he didn't complain that she killed Dakala just now. The traveler states that the bandit leader knew that he was going to die, which is the reason he uttered his last words. The man is also certain that the bandit leader probably didn't possess knowledge of much else of his home planet. The traveler understands that Elias marked the kill because she was afraid that Dakala might make his escape again. However, the knight argues that it couldn't have been possible for a man who has lost both his legs to run away. The traveler tells Elias that he is the worst of the two for having tricked the knights just to take down the bandit leader this way. Elias agrees that his plan made sense, despite the ethical problems she faced by going along with it. The traveler inquires about the reason Elias made the immediate kill of Dakala. Elias confesses that she was afraid and even disgusted when she looked at him. She eerily felt like Dakala looked just like him and felt like him too. Elias was worried that he would give in to the dark forces and find himself influenced by the bandit leader. That is the reason she swung her sword and ended Dakala's life. The traveler ponders her words and thinks that her reasoning is sound because he, too, feels that he understands the leader of the bandits, despite the man being a cold-blooded murderer. The traveler asserts that the knight took an admirable action because she chose to take the action and reflected on it, which is good enough as it is. Elias feels like she is being treated like a kid in this situation. It's also revealed that the incredibly strong knight is only 18 years of age, while the traveler is much older. The knight is flustered and thinks that he might have some kind of elven genetics of some kind for looking so young. The Earthling reflects that Japanese people generally look younger than the other races and realizes that he has been acting a little childish in this world. Elias apologizes to the foreign traveler, while the Earthling decides that he should act more maturely from here on. Yep, dude's way older than his youthful appearance in this world. On their way back, he reflects on the status of their mission and how they were able to annihilate the other base with ease. They also dealt with the onslaught of the zombies thanks to their purifying magic squads. Even though there were some injuries in their army, not a single soldier under Leaner's leadership died in the squad, which makes the traveler appreciate his commanding abilities. Also, Dakala's head is being taken as a mission trophy, wrapping up their operation, which succeeded. However, the traveler's problems don't end there, as he is still worried about the people, who are aware of the knowledge of Earth, as well as the origin of the taboo linked with his home planet. Contemplating his thoughts, the traveler thinks that it might take him a long time before he can actually sit around peacefully in this new world. Bro just wants some peace and quiet, and he can't even have that. Meanwhile, in the mountain range forest of the kingdom, a particular creature has found herself lost. Sharing a pleasant morning for the first time after arriving in this world, the traveler is struck with the soreness of the muscles after his mission from the other day. He remembers how he ended up in this room in the first place. Apparently, Elias questioned his goals after their successful operation. The traveler didn't know what he should be doing and asked her to look for some bridge for him to sleep under. Obviously, Elias was embarrassed hearing his request. The traveler claimed that he intends to get a job someday to earn some money. Because of Elia's embarrassment, she declares that she won't just accept her benefactor to lead a life of poverty and disdain. Instead, she offers him a room in her house, claiming that it's enough for him and that he doesn't have to pay rent. The traveler jumps in excitement, which makes her wonder if she has been tricked and guilt-tripped into offering him a space. However, the man tells her that he is serious about living under a bridge and thinks that her generosity has saved him much trouble. Because of his help, the pitiful yet penniless outsider from a different world now lives the life of a stupid freeloader. The traveler finds the simplicity of the room best and thinks that he should explore the country even more. Excited, he heads off into the city and begins to understand the currency of the world. Copper coins are equivalent to 100 yen, while silver and gold are 1,000 and 10,000 yen worth each. The traveler finds a girl who fell down while carrying a bunch of potatoes. He helps her out while she fears for her life as she has ripped apart her basket. The traveler buys another basket for her, earning the respect of the girl as she introduces herself as Sarah. She also introduces him to the inn where she works. Exploring the interior of the inn, Gaz introduces himself as the owner and wants to compensate him for his troubles. The traveler claims that there is no need, but he is looking for something to eat. Gaz offers to prepare him some food, while Sarah tells him more about the town. Sarah is trying to fulfill her dream while working as a waitress on part-time duty. She dreams of becoming a tailoress one day and is proud of the work that she does. Sarah wears the most dazzling smile on her face, finding her work to be much fun. Meanwhile, the traveler thinks that he's just a freeloader compared to her honest and hardworking lifestyle. When Sarah asks about his lodging, the traveler chooses to tell the truth about his stay in the room of a friendly knight. Sarah is stunned that he is associated with a knight and asks for the company name. The moment he reveals the knight's name is Elias Ratzel, both Sarah and Gaz are shocked, realizing that he's associated with the famous Lady Elias, whose name soars across the country. Sarah is actually a big fan of hers and admires her incredible swordsmanship. Their reaction confirms to the Earthling that Elias is actually a big deal with her monstrous strength. Furthermore, they are also aware of Grandpa Kara, who is literally termed the Divine Spear, and is one of the best knights ever with many tales. The traveler is shocked that the knights are revered to such an extent, and also confirms that he helped in the recent bandit purge. Sarah finds him incredible and wishes to see Lady Elias's performance in battle. On a different note, Sarah winces and remarks that Lady Elias is also spoken negatively by some people, and then some support her. The traveler acknowledges her comment, stating that Sarah happens to be one of those supporting people. He also tells her that Lady Elias is surely the one who is going to put an end to the infighting, bringing a smile to the girl's face. The traveler reflects that despite her inability to be acknowledged by everyone, there are also those who treasure the knight and support her in such a considerate way. He wants to bring Elias to the inn sometime. However, that thought immediately flips over his head when he chows down on his meal, because it's the most horrifying thing that he has ever put in his mouth. The traveler is shocked that the inn has such terrible food, and wonders if they've been surviving up to this point through other means. Bro was expecting something gourmet only to be served dog water, haha. Deciding to help Sarah and Gauze, he brings them over to Mahia's church, who is surprised that he made new friends. The man has tasted delicious food served by Mahia before, which is why he thinks that she may be the only salvation of the inn owner. He looks over to Gauze and Sarah, who are both shocked once more because of his connection with the legendary Lady Mahia of the church, as she is considered the banisher of the demons. Mahia is content with teaching them how to cook, as she has all the time on her hands. She reveals that she's actually free, because all her underlings are doing the real work instead. The traveler decides to leave Gauze in her care, and talks about the scarcity of salt in the country. Mahia claims that salt is a luxury for the noble people, but the earthling shares that it was quite common in his homeland. He knows that salt could drastically improve the flavor of the food. Mahia decides to offer him knowledge about a particular trading company that could help him out. At the same time, the traveler requests more information about the possession magic that she instilled in him. Mahia thinks for a while, and wonders if there has been some kind of problem. The traveler states that he's curious about the longevity of the magic. Mahia claims that it would last for as long as the power runs out, which means about 4 days. She will cast it again to save him the trouble. Mahia also reveals that she actually messed up the casting, which is why he should be suffering some side effects. When the traveler asks about the details of such side effects, Mahia explains that the muscular pain is usually delayed and hurts like hell. The poor man realizes that the pain that he suffered just this morning is actually all because of the side effects of her magic, not to mention the fact that it can't even be healed by healing magic, making his pain even worse. The following day, the traveler meets with Ban, the owner of the trading company. Ban has read the traveler's request for salt and claims that he will apply a discount on behalf of Lady Mahia as well. The traveler declines his discount and states that he intends to buy the product at the market price, and in exchange, he would prefer a lowered market value of salt in the country. Bemused by his entertaining request, Ban requests more details. The traveler internalizes that a kilogram of salt is worth a gold coin in the country, equaling 10,000 yen. He knows that the product is incredibly overpriced, and wonders why its distribution is at a low. In a previous conversation with Mahia, he told her that salt was considered fundamental in their world, and that wars were fought over its acquisition. Mahia claims that even vegetables and cereals contain a minute amount of magic power for the nutrients to an extent. That's when the traveler realizes that these guys basically call basic minerals magic power, and that it's nothing more than that. He's disappointed, that's for sure, knowing that salt has lost its usefulness in the world. It's considered a luxury. The traveler tells Ban that he wants to increase the demand for salt, and in exchange for increasing the supply, he intends to lower the buying price of the product. Ban warns him about the risks of fluctuations in day-to-day prices, and that it will be difficult to arrange such a thing without a plan. As if anticipating his objection, the traveler claims that he does indeed have a plan. The scene cuts to Sarah, who is busy offering drinks to her customers. They have also served a new dish that they came up with free of cost to try. When the customers find the taste beyond delicious, they wonder if Gauze is dead or if they have replaced the chef. It is explained that the meal is basically potato chips paired with French fries, showcasing the beauty and potential of salt. He suggested Gauze serve it for free as an appetizer. Sarah is grateful for his help, and he claims that the negotiations were fruitful with Ban. With a number of different meals, the word about the delicious meals at the inn spread around quickly and flooded the inn until closing hours. Sarah and Gauze were utterly exhausted. Even the traveler didn't receive any mercy, since he had to help them out because they were understaffed for this kind of flood. Meanwhile, waiting for the traveler's return, Elias wonders if he is interested in returning home at all. The following day, he is stung with the usual muscle soreness that he suffers from. A new problem has arisen in the form of the inn being understaffed. However, that problem doesn't stay for long as they've acquired a necessary member. The older lady is actually Grandpa Kara's wife, who became interested in the job after he explained the situation to them about the inn. Grandpa Kara introduced him to his wife, and one thing led to another, with her ending up at the inn. Finding a convenient moment, the traveler asks Kara about the location of the hidden base, based on the words of Dakala. He has reason to believe that there is something inside the lair that has documents about Earth. In fact, he is certain that Dakala entrusted him with the information so that the knights couldn't get their hands on it first. Grandpa Kara also explains that King Marito intends to use his knights to search every base of the bandits. Sensing the urgency, he offers the Earthling a chance to retrieve the important documents now, before the officials restrict their access. The two of them initiate this duo mission by heading right towards the hidden base. On their way, the traveler asks about the tale of Kara, bringing down a wyvern with a helmet. Kara claims that it's quite the old story, and he used a helmet because he didn't want to lose his precious spear. Arriving at the entrance of the lair, the two tread carefully inside, discovering a bunch of barrels containing knives and magic stones, along with other gems. Finally, the traveler lays his eyes on a handwritten diary and uncovers the case, finding himself absolutely shocked. Grandpa Kara also comes over to inspect the document and realizes that he can't read a single word. The traveler is too stunned to speak momentarily. Finally, he reveals that the language on the cover is Japanese, and the title grimly reads, "The Investigated Findings of the Young King of Evil." Realizing that this is indeed the bandit leader's final gift to him, the traveler contemplates the words of Mahia, who told him about the forbidden magic capable of resurrecting demon lords, and the words of Dakala, who stated that humans are capable of producing such magic. The ominous title certainly doesn't help with his expectations. The traveler turns to Kara and states that there is something he wants to tell him about the story. Firstly, he clarifies that he is from another world, a fact that only Mahia and Elias are aware of, and he requests that the information not be shared with anyone else. Grandpa Kara still doesn't understand his intentions, wondering why he isn't looking through the documents. Ruminating on his words, the Earthling states that he can't find it in himself to read the contents for now. Grandpa Kara reminds him that if he fails to utilize the current moment, he might never find the opportunity. The traveler states that he worries that his own lips are not trustworthy enough, and he fears that he might slip out some of the information to others. Realizing that he can't keep this item to himself, he leaves the document in the hands of the elderly knight. Grandpa Kane tells him that the document might end up in the hands of the king, but the traveler doesn't have any issues with this and hands over the diary. With Grandpa Kane acquiring the diary, the traveler reflects on his decision and knows that the older man is a trusted knight, and he doesn't want to jeopardize his position because of his own selfishness. He didn't want to make him choose between keeping his word and upholding his sacred duty. If anything, the man only found a shimmering light of purity engulfing the wise knight. Nameless main character sharing a wholesome moment. Exiting the lair, Grandpa Kane questions if he is entirely sure about handing him the document. The traveler wears a smile on his face and states that he wants to live peacefully in society. Returning to Elias' place, the knight welcomes him abruptly, which startles the traveler. Elias is annoyed that he was gone all day and has questions of her own. The traveler reflects that Elias must have received a day off, which is why she waited for him all day. Elias confirms that she has experienced the feeling of being left alone for the first time while waiting for him and finds it a soothing feeling. The traveler is plainly confused and offers to grab some food with her. However, Elias doesn't have any ingredients at home because she didn't go out to shop. In order to salvage this situation, he wants to take her to the inn, which makes her even more annoyed, as she realizes that he has been spending time at the inn while she waits for him. When he tries to tell her that he took a walk with Kara, it only rubs salt on her wound. Elias apologizes for being snappy with him and explains that she got restless at the thought of spending her day with someone. Her admission makes him flustered for a moment, and he tells her that they'll be going out. He takes her to the notorious inn, an inn that Elias is dreadfully aware of because of its bad food. The traveler tells her that there is nothing to worry about, as they have made some incredible changes. Entering the place, Sarah is filled with customers, and she is immediately taken aback to see her idle knight. She welcomes Elias with respect, while the knight remains confused. It doesn't take long for Elias to try some of the food, finding it surprisingly delicious. She is impressed that the foreign traveler was able to achieve so much in a single day. He asks her thoughts about Sarah's greeting. Elias states that she was surprised and happy about hearing such words. The traveler tells her that many people are looking up to her as a person. Elias states that she has lived her life trying to be a good knight like her father and always gets nervous at the criticism of other people because she is a rookie in the end. The traveler tells her that it's only natural to feel down or feel happy once people appreciate or criticize someone. In her memories, Elias remembers her father boasting incredible qualities in his own right. The traveler advises her to accept her emotions and to catapult her anger into strength. Elias begins to understand his perspective and receives his smile. Collecting his thoughts, the Earthling reflects that Elias puts fleeting hope in people, which reminds him of his previous self. However, he only betrayed such hopes yesterday because she was disappointed in him. Even still, he thinks that Elias will discover strength from the people around her in the tavern. Damn, send her to Naruto to get schooled on the power of friendship. The next morning, Elias wakes up extremely drained, knowing how she spent the previous day. With a happy smile on her face, she thinks it was worth it in the end. Inside the castle of the Tai's kingdom, Kara hastily makes his way to report to their commander, Ragdo, about an urgent matter. Whoa, is this old geezer about to snitch? No way. Grandpa Kara hands Ragdo the important document that he discovered upon his findings in Dakala's secret hideout. Ragdo is surprised that Kara chose to investigate the matter on his own, despite Leonar's arranged unit. Grandpa Kara apologizes for self-determining his actions. Ragdo inspects the document and finds himself completely astonished by the unknown language. He seriously questions if Kara has been able to read the book at all. Kara denies having read any part of it with his life. The old man is gonna get unemployed at this point. Ragdo, relieved, shockingly reveals that he already knows about the young traveler, who prevented himself from reading the book. Grandpa Kara is left stunned and embarrassed. Ragdo explains that Maya told him about the affair and that he knows the Outlander is from another world. Grandpa Kara apologizes for hiding the matter from his commander, but Ragdo doesn't care as much as he sees him as a friend. Ragdo is aware that the traveler read the cover of the titled document. Ragdo confirms that the fourth Demon Lord was named the Blue Demon Lord, a monster capable of recreating the worst human events. The matter of the book peeves Ragdo, and he intends to find out more about its origins in secret. Meanwhile, the traveler is still struck with the effect of sore muscles. His current worry is to find a way to make boatloads of money since he doesn't have a job. The traveler ends up visiting a mansion, where Ban tells him that he's been to the famous inn that has experienced a wonderful shift. It's like when a one-star restaurant becomes a Michelin star establishment. The traveler is surprised that Ban has personally visited the inn. Ban commends the traveler's plan for spreading the value of salt and, therefore, increasing its demand. Due to the recent defeat of the bandits, the merchants will cause an influx of commodities, and eventually, people's desires to enjoy commodities will also increase. The traveler questions if Ban is aware of a material called rock salt. Ban confirms that he knows about the salt-containing ores found in the mountains. The traveler explains that their main purpose is actually to acquire the mountain salt instead. This is because it can be obtained by the boiling of a hot spring, and if the water is salty, then one can easily boil it down to get the salt. The traveler's knowledge enthralls Ban, and he thinks that they'll collectively create trends in the country. Ban gets excited because he thinks they'll be able to snag hidden treasures in the name of discovery. My guy is acting like a true businessman. The traveler grins and takes out a copy of a special map that he acquired from the bandits. Obviously, Ban is shocked that he even possesses such an item. Ban is surprised to note that the bandits were operating in such a wide territory, making their operations difficult. The traveler has already marked the places for them to explore. He also points out that the bandits have already done most of the exploration for them in this case. The traveler thinks that it's much better to use a map rather than blindly investigating something for the chance of discovery. Ban is intimidated by the man's cunningness and questions what would happen if Ban were to steal the map and investigate the matter all on his own. The traveler entertains the possibility and claims that he'll be able to know the type of person he is dealing with and obviously act in accordance with that. Ban assures him and expresses that he intends to be a great partner in this case. The scene switches to the castle of King Marito, whom Ragdo has just reported numerous discoveries about the mysterious young man. King Marito is intrigued by the young man's decision to exploit Aaliyah's heroism in a way, and is excited to meet the traveler. Ragdo tells him that he will call the young man at the awards ceremony so that the king can see him for himself. Mr. Nobody is on his way to become a countrywide celebrity. Meanwhile, Ban is endlessly excited about this mission that he's taking on a journey with the traveler. They checked the map and located a nearby cave. The traveler didn't fear any nearby dangerous animals and began exploring on his own. Ban was pumped and wanted to tag along, too, even though he was the owner of a trading company. The traveler was a little surprised to find that Ban is used to these types of missions, jack of all trades and even the master of them too. This is because Ban was actually an adventurer who settled down to be a merchant. The traveler is astonished that he always manages to get around people who have high profiles. He thinks that he's the only normal person in this world and can relate to the inn's employees, except they, too, haven't shown off their skills. Poor guy can't relate to anyone and is the loneliest dude on the planet. Reaching the strange crevice, Ban and the traveler come to a harrowing discovery that the cave is blocked. The traveler thinks that the cave must have been a hideout place and wasn't used for much else. Suddenly, Ban begins to inspect the wall by pressing it repeatedly with his hands. Ban discovers that a part of the wall is made out of magic, once again astonishing the boy with his abilities. Ban attacks the wall with the full force swing of his hammer, destroying it at once. Ban explains that his weapon is an enchanted hammer that amplifies the attacks numerous times. The only drawback is immense mana consumption, and it can't be used around the magic ceiling stones. Ban is excited enough to continue, while the traveler notes that his eyes are in adventurer mode to the fullest. Navigating the cave, the two of them discover a forest beyond the cave. At first, it seems ordinary, but Ban emphasizes that they've made an important discovery. The traveler notes that the plants actually emit light, and they're quite similar to those on the Black Demon Lord's Killer Mountain. Ban is stunned by his knowledge once again, and inquires how he knew. The traveler explains that he was attacked by a slime, an answer that completely riles Ban, who is shocked that the young man managed to survive the forests. Ban shares the epic discovery and thinks that he's located a business opportunity for himself. The traveler wasn't expecting them to make amazing discoveries and hit a home run on their first investigation. Well, that is until the traveler falls into a trap and finds himself a captive of a tribe. There will always be something getting in the way of his peaceful life. The traveler remarks that this is a full-fledged kidnapping and questions the kind of people that have captured them. He notices their physical attributes and quickly realizes that they must be beastmen of some kind. The beastmen scrutinize the human and hold him at their knife's edge. The traveler calmly explains that he doesn't have any ill intentions and is willing to explain everything as long as they free him. Of course, the problem is that they can't quite understand his language. The traveler recalls that Maya told him possession magic is capable of undemanding every language, except when the person he talks to, then it will be converted to the most common language. Even though possession magic has its pros, it doesn't do the job all the way through. Obaba, a peculiar beast man, regards the traveler as a harmless young boy. Obaba explains that the boy always responds in a language that they can't understand. Obaba extends his hand and casts a spell different from his possession magic. The proof of this is the fact that the young man can suddenly speak in a language that they understand. Obaba explains that he shared his magic power with the spirit possessing the traveler. Obaba commends the mage, who became responsible for casting the magic in the first place. The traveler knows that it's Maya, and prays for her to find a way to remove his muscle pain. That comes as a painful side effect. Back to business, the traveler fully explains that he doesn't mean any harm to the beastman, and is fully willing to cooperate with their interrogation. This superpower, that only an omnipotent being could possess, is called simple communication. Get it? Because it's not a superpower at all. He is just exercising the talk no jutsu that he learned from Naruto. Back at the castle, Elias the knight is told by Commander Ragdo to invite the young man who helped in the defeat of the bandits. Elias is concerned and wonders if there is something wrong. Ragdo comments that she is much more relaxed than usual and wonders if something good happened. Ragdo tells Elias that it is her mission to inform the young man of the invitation. Both the old geezers muse how the young man is actually influencing Elias in a good way, and that they're happy to see her like that. Returning to the scene of the Beast Man, they are shocked to discover the defeat of the Black Demon Lord. The traveler thinks that he can't really lie in this case. The Beastman tribe is actually called the Black Wolf tribe, which made its escape from the Demon Lord and hid in the forest to live in secret. Obaba states that they've had no contact with the outside world and are shocked to realize that the world survives. Obaba inquires about Ban, while the traveler explains that he's just a friend, who is probably interested in rescuing him. The traveler explains that he can always convince his people not to attack the tribe. Obaba is surprised that he's acting in favor of the people. This guy gaslights better than my ex-girlfriend, and that's quite the feat. The traveler doubles down and says that he doesn't want any conflicts among their people. He also requests that he stay in the village for a while. Obaba accepts and requests for a favor, an important responsibility that demands the young man to become their intermediary with the outside world. Obaba tells him that their tribe is a dying race and they can't thrive in the small forest forever. Obaba has taken the boy's bilingual comprehension as a good sign for the people. The traveler tells the tribe leader that people are interested in the special plants found in the forest and that he would be willing to negotiate with the people of the outside world on their behalf. Obaba explains that the young man did not speak of a single lie, demonstrating the ability to detect any kind of falsehood. The traveler meets the tribesman, who becomes responsible for knocking him out. Because of the unwelcome attack, the traveler requests the beast man to help him guide around the village. The traveler is astonished to discover that beasts are lying around, even though mountains mostly surround the forest. He finds ritualistic duels and commends the tribesmen for their physical strength that far surpasses that of the bandits. This is because they train every single day to fight the demon lord's army. The beast man advises him to stay away from the den of the taboo child, as he may get cursed on his own. The traveler spots a young girl who is bullied by the rest of the tribe. They call her a cursed child and beat her repeatedly, something that he doesn't appreciate. The tribesman explains that she is a taboo child, bearing an odd appearance. Their violent laughter and casual mistreatment of the child strike the young man, who remarks that he has felt a similar pain back in Japan. He reclaims his composure and decides to return to Obaba. Meanwhile, Ban returns to the castle to relay the news of the young man's capture by the demi-humans. Grandpa Kara hopes for his safety. The traveler returns to the tribe leader looking for confrontation. He questions as to why the child is considered a taboo child. Obaba explains that it's because of her unusual appearance, something that shouldn't exist in the Black Wolf tribe, as the color white has an unusual resemblance to death. Obaba claims that the birth of the cursed object resulted in the death of their parents, and when she is left in the forest, the surrounding plants wither and die. They didn't want to kill the child because they were afraid of the curse taking effect upon them. That is why they allow her to stay outside the village to become the bearer of calamities. Probably the worst way to handle an unusual child, if you ask me. The young man isn't pleased and wonders if they used her to remove bad luck. Obaba emphasizes that the child has no value apart from that, and recommends that the boy not get involved with the cursed thing. The traveler states that he wants to ascertain the facts with his own eyes, and has no intentions of leaving the village soon. He comes back to the wretched place, termed as the den of the taboo child. The traveler locates the girl, who immediately gets frightened and thinks that he is about to hurt her. The traveler tells her to calm down, as he doesn't bring any harm. However, the girl fails to understand his intentions. The traveler observes that the girl herself doesn't even know how to speak as of yet, and from the moment she was born, she had nothing to fend for except herself. The girl has lived in fear, dread, and agony all her life. The young man questions why an innocent child would get treated in such harsh ways, and why she is being kept alive and tortured. He is moved to tears and latches onto the girl's body for a hug. The traveler shouts words of empathy, knowing that the poor girl had no one to take care of her throughout this time. He voices the feelings that the girl was never given a chance to speak of. Bawling his eyes out, the young man noted that he wanted to cry endlessly. He accepts that many things in this world can't be fulfilled, and thinks that there are some things that only he can fulfill. He acknowledges his complacency and his flaws in life, trying to live safely without any consideration for others. The traveler deems himself a hypocrite and cries along with the poor girl as if to share their sorrows. Didn't expect him to show an emotional side, did you? Like the video for the wolf girl. After a while, he apologizes to the girl for having shown a pathetic side of him, shocked that she's able to actually comprehend what he is saying. The traveler is surprised because she wasn't displaying any comprehensive abilities before. He pates her gentle, white and shining hair. The traveler questions if the girl is looking to leave the village. That is when a strange man startles him from behind. The traveler knows that this is Ban and gets crept out by his appearance. My guy looks like an assassin, ready to take him out. Yikes. The traveler shares that he is glad Ban is safe. Ban tells him that he has called for backup, and that he has actually seen the young man cry his eyes out. The traveler's ego is shattered to oblivion when Ban tells him that they should get out at once. The traveler explains that he has things to take care of in the village, and he wants advice about the girl. The girl in question is actually deathly afraid of Ban, who also cries his eyes out when he is explained about her tragic past. Knowing that he has jeopardized his life of safety, the traveler declares that he wants to save the poor girl with all his might. Spouting words that he would never do so before, the man voices that he will be the one to grant her freedom. Meanwhile, Elias is totally depressed because she can't locate Wonder Boy, who is busy with another girl in the forest. Ban returns to tell her that the demi-humans actually kidnapped the young man. Having made up his mind, the traveler returns to the tribe leader and demands that another condition be added to their deal. The traveler confirms that he would enable them to negotiate at equal footing with all he can, in return for this special condition. Obaba is clever enough to deduce what would happen if they didn't agree to his condition. Basically, he would flop their side of the negotiations. Obaba inquires about his new condition, to which the traveler declares that he wants the taboo child to be given freedom in the outside world. He asserts that it's for both of their sake. Suddenly, Obaba is told that there are people with weapons outside the village, preparing to attack. Obaba is shocked and thinks that he has betrayed them. The traveler confirms that they're just here for him and wants to resume negotiation. The traveler pitches the condition that the taboo child must fight their strongest fighter, and upon victory, she will be released. The beast man in question is shocked that the traveler is willing to put the poor girl's life on the line for a fight. This makes Obaba believe that the traveler is just like them and wants a quick end to the girl's life, which is why he called the duel in the first place. The traveler doesn't bother explaining his intentions and manages to convince Obaba to accept the duel. He confirms that the strongest man of the beast man tribe has to take the fight seriously no matter what. To further add to his point, the traveler helps demonstrate the might of the knights by having a mock battle between Ban and Grandpa Kara, both of which showcase immense power. The traveler explains that the two aren't actually fighting, and this is just a display of their powers. Obaba is peeved by the young man, who shares that they should start the duel at once, since all of his knights will not be participating in battle. Thus, the duel with the strongest man in the village begins. On another note, Elias was basically searching for him everywhere. She even went to the inn, but couldn't find him there. None of the inn staff members knew about his whereabouts either. In fact, Grandpa Kara's wife remarked that the girl's expression has softened as of late, a remark that Ragdo shared. Elias went to Meyer as well, who also didn't know about the young man's location. Elias describes their day out as something special and fun. Maya finds herself surprised, because this is the same girl who always boasts a serious expression. She thinks that the young man has done a fine job. Damn, they are straight up shipping these two together. Anon X Elias lol, because he has no name. The traveler comes over to whisper something in the girl's ear. The remark is enough to make her embarrassed. Ban and Grandpa Kara wonder if their acting was on point. The traveler confirms that they indeed did a fine job at it. Obaba is confident that the strongest of their village will definitely kill the girl as a consequence of this duel. Obaba wonders if that was the traveler's true goal all along. The young man states that one should wait to see the outcome. The battle commences with the girl crying. The strongest beast man of their tribe lunges forth to attack, only to shockingly discover that his weapon broke upon impact. The traveler commands her to break the shackles with her own hands. Hearing his words, the girl prepares and launches a powerful strike that is enough to send the man crashing into the wall. With the battle finished, the traveler declares that this is his true goal. Now having their attention, the traveler explains that the girl they cast away was not cursed but, in fact, had a genetic disorder called albinism. He tells them that the death of her parents was a tragedy that became a coincidence in the affair. The traveler points out the cruelty of the point, who feared tragedy so much that they created an imaginary taboo child to point their blame. He fires at them for making baseless assumptions and committing foolish acts upon the girl. He contemplates that the people of the tribe wouldn't just listen to his empty words, which is why he specifically used the duel to prove his point. Then, the traveler explains that transparent trees residing near the village grow by feeding off of magical energy. When the trees overflow with magic energy, they release excess magic through their leaves, the same as the girl's hair. The light in her hair is, in fact, more than the girl can handle. This is also the reason the girl could understand his speech, as the traveler's possessed spirit absorbed the excess magic energy. The traveler declares her magic energy comparable to the very hero who defeated the demon lord. He emphasizes that the child they cast away was not a taboo child, but, in fact, a gift sent from beyond the heavens as a blessing. The realization crumbles the tribesmen, who can't fathom what they have just heard. The traveler asserts that he will be taking the girl with him, and hopes to fulfill the second promise another day. Exiting the forest, both Ban and Grandpa Kara are impressed by the young man's persuasive abilities, as he is able to pin down the exact way to reason with the villagers. It's revealed that Ban actually helped the girl train and unleash her magic the previous night, and her magic is, in fact, comparable to Elias herself, which is why he was confident enough to set up the duel. He is glad that the girl managed to liberate herself with her own hands, and thinks that the experience would help her achieve things in her new life. He also did it for the sake of the villagers, knowing that they wouldn't be able to survive if they believed in superstitions. The poor girl is still afraid of Grandpa Kara, however, who put on a flashy display in the previous battle. The traveler knew that it was easy for the girl to get riled up in the expectations of the villagers, which is why he made a last-minute adjustment by telling her that his life was also on the line in this duel. He impressively manipulated all of them. This guy doesn't need weapons, he is the weapon. That's why, when she saw him get seized by the villagers, the girl couldn't bear it, but concentrated all of her strength into a punch. The traveler finds her a pure girl and hopes to take care of her well when they return. Speaking of Elias, the devil herself is on a rampage and remarks that they have already settled the affair without her. Grandpa Kara, Ban, and the traveler are all worried about what excuse they should come up with. Elias is in the mood to kill since no one has even guided her to the place, and she has been searching for him the entire day. Grandpa Kara, being the ultimate wingman, pushes him in front of her to make amends. The traveler apologizes to Elias and goes on to hug her. He acknowledges her feelings and states his gratitude. Elias gets embarrassed and finds it sufficient that nothing happened to the boy. Grandpa Kara and Ban blow up the romantic atmosphere by outright stating that the traveler didn't want Elias to come because she would brute force the entire operation. This stupid confession is enough to wet his pants because he's literally standing in front of the devil. Elias gives him a good old beating in return. She actually hit him so badly that he lost consciousness. Elias and the others return to the kingdom, where they properly bathe the wolf girl. Of course, she still doesn't welcome the experience and only wants to be around the traveler. The traveler suggests bringing her to the church so that Maya can grant her possession of magic. That's when Elias tells him that he's received a formal invitation from Commander Ragdo for the award ceremony, as he became responsible for defeating the bandits. The traveler instantly declines, which shocks her. Even though he suffers the wrath of the gorilla's pinch, the traveler explains that he despises standing out. He tells her that it's not good for a freak like him to stand out in public. He furthers tell him that Elias is doing fine by herself because of her connection to reliable friends. The remark annoys Elias, who thinks that they're not good enough for him. The traveler corrects her, stating that even though he relies on her, he has only been in this world for a week. He fears the people who can quickly become his enemies as a result of standing out. He even acknowledges himself as a coward to prove his point. Elias thinks that he's definitely not a coward, but he's insistent on proving his point. However, the young man does confess that he relies on Elias the most, which is why he wants to decline the invitation. Elias is ready to give up and reveals that Commander Ragdo ordered her to carry out this mission. Suddenly, the traveler accepts without reason. This is because he doesn't want her to get slandered on the side, despite the troubles he will have to face. They end up in Maya's place, who casts possession of magic on the miracle child. She shows signs of communication and asks for the young man's name. The young man doesn't know what he should settle for a nickname, and simply tells her to call her Shisho or Sensei in the meantime. The wolf girl appreciates the name Shisho and finds herself chanting his name. Having completed the possession magic ritual, they decide to travel to the inn, where Sarah is endlessly in awe of the wolf girl's cuteness. The traveler requests Sarah to make clothes that fit the girl's size, even though they don't sell clothes for demi-humans in the city. Sarah gets motivated by the challenge and bolts off. While she is away, the traveler wants to help her focus on languages. Even though Maya's possession of magic aids her, the traveler wants the girl to learn languages on her own, as well as common sense. Since he is also a dunce in this affair, the two of them become Maya students. The traveler wants to help provide support to the girl, and knows that he's no different than a beginner when it comes to the knowledge of this world. Maya agrees to become their tutor and begins teaching them. Elias, on the other hand, practices her training in idle time. Sarah returns with a finished product. The black clothes are complementary to the girl's white hair, adding the perfect touch. Sarah also makes added modifications to her attire, and actually carves a really modern-looking outfit for her. The traveler is astounded by her skill, and tasks her with making clothes for Elias as well. He pays her a hefty amount, something that Sarah feels she doesn't deserve. The man explains that one has to pay a suitable amount to buy someone else's skill. The nameless protagonist basically disses companies that underpay their employees. He tells her that she'll get paid for making clothes on order, reminding her that everyone in the room appreciates her talent. The traveler makes the girl smile. He internalizes how impressive it is for her to make accessories and shoes in the span of a few hours, adding weight to her skill. Arriving at the inn, the traveler is welcomed by the staff, who is surprised that he's brought a cute girl along. The wolf girl is served a delicious meal, while the young man teaches her how to eat with the tableware. She takes her first bite and gets fascinated enough to fill her stomach. After the delicious meal, the young man reflects that there is a lot of progress to be made with the beast girl. Most importantly, he wants to teach her to become independent so that she can live on her own. He asks Elias for suggestions on naming, since the villagers only refer to the girl as a taboo child. Elias wonders if they should make something out of the word black, since she comes from the Black Wolf tribe. They find themselves at a loss until Elias suggests the name Wolf. The traveler thinks about it for a bit and doesn't hate the name too much. He names her Wolf at last, a name that the wolf girl herself adores. He also points to her new home, which is Elias' own space. The girl is filled with admiration and takes a step inside, kickstarting a new life for her. Meanwhile, King Marito is told of the recent conflict with the demi-human tribe. Knowing that the young man is linked by the subjugation of bandits, a book of the Demon King, and even the discovery of the human tribe, Marito is amazed by the man's achievements. Ragdo relays that Elias successfully persuaded him. Marito is delighted to meet the man who brought change to their country, to the point he can't contain his excitement. The mystery man himself reflects that he now has a responsibility to take care of the girl, and wonders how he should influence her life. He also has to take care of Elias, who is burdened with insecurities, knowing that Elias only trains to distract herself from her thoughts. In fact, the traveler alludes to the possibility that her strength is a result of her coping with her insecurities. He rejects the thought and thinks that Elias has grown softer, which can turn out badly for her. Plagued by a whirlpool of thoughts, the man regains his composure and declares that his cold, methodical self is still unaffected. Formal occasions require formal attire, which is why the traveler asks the merchant man to fetch him some formal wear. Arriving at the scene, Wolf comments on how he looks so different. The young man himself is a little overwhelmed because he looks like a medieval nobleman. He receives compliments from Grandpa Kara, who has adorned the ceremony with special armor. At the same time, Ban has been placed in charge of trade between the Black Wolf tribe and the Kingdom Taizu. The rest of the merchants are going to use Ban as the intermediary for the trade. The traveler himself has become the intermediary for the negotiations on behalf of the Black Wolf tribe. As a consequence, he will receive a set percentage of the profits generated from the trade. When he arrives at the castle, Grandpa Kara tells him that the ceremony is soon to commence. The young man is quick to notice the gossiping nobleman. King Marito requires their silence at once. The traveler remarks that the king is rather young. Marito intently stares him down and mentions the names of the commanders and their teams responsible for carrying out the operation. Elias Ratzel is also celebrated for her accomplishments in the bandit subjugation mission and for defeating the main leader himself. She receives a ceremonial applause, and the people celebrate the occasion in the banquet hall. The young man is loving the finest meals. Elias finds him and states that Commander Ragdo is eager to meet the man. The young man trails her along and spots the king himself talking to Ragdo. Ragdo greets the young man in kind and introduces himself. He also thanks him for taking care of his team. At last, Marito II Taizu, the king of the country, meets him. Marito explains that even though Elia's achievements are commendable, she still has a number of flaws. Marito acknowledges that the traveler has somehow managed to fine-tune her, to the point she has become the central figure of the event. Marito anticipates the otherworldly traveler's response and jots his appearance to be the same as the mentioned reports. He aims to request a handshake and has already discussed the matter with the two knights beforehand, so as not to interfere with the man's response. The traveler, who is sharply taking note of their reactions, stares him down. The man turns away from the king, a response that stuns Marito. The traveler collects a meal and serves the king a plate of food. The king is left confused, wondering if the man has misunderstood his gesture as a request for food. Marito accepts the fruits in kind, but when he glances at the young man, he is already seen turning away. Goddamn, imagine turning away from the king of the country like that. Takes balls of titanium. It's as if he couldn't be bothered as he leaves the banquet hall. Marito is left utterly speechless by his reaction. Growing impatient, Marito can't accept the fact that he just got to meet the man and that he's already fleeing from the site. He had prepared many strategies to test him. Marito chases after him, only to find the traveler standing in front of him. The young man questions why the king is in such a hurry. He remarks that the king wanted to play, so he reciprocated in kind, yet he didn't expect Marito to come in person. Marito is surprised that he reversed his strategy and tested the king instead. He outsmarted the guy with his plan. The dude knew he was being set up. Marito laughs, stating that he couldn't help but be curious. The young man states that he has already seen through Elia's terrible acting. Marito claims that he actually likes the traveler very much and would prefer a conversation. He borrows him for a while and shares a drink in private. Marito states that it's fine for him to drop the formalities. He thanks him for effectively making use of the knights, who were struggling with chivalrous values. The traveler states that Dakala was a good leader in that regard. Marito argues that most of the strategy was thanks to the young man's efforts, who calculated every move with sheer precision. Marito is surprised that he isn't overly proud of his achievements. The traveler argues that he doesn't fancy being proud by taking advantage of other people's weaknesses. Instead, he wants Marito to praise Elias as she was able to reject the chivalrous path that her father paved as an ideal and instead followed the young man's whims. Marito shares his gratitude regarding the Black Wolf tribe as he helped maintain an equal relationship with the kingdom, even though it would have been easy to control the demi-humans. Strangely, the traveler reflects that the king's behavior is similar to someone who is under a lot of pressure. Marito brings forth the most important subject of their meeting, which is the infamous Book of the Blue Demon Lord's research. This is the topic that the young man was looking forward to avoiding. Marito emphasizes that the matter is of urgent importance, and even though the text is written in his world's language, he chooses not to read it. The traveler explains that he didn't want to risk Grandpa Kara's position by engaging in the act. Marito states that this kind of research is actually forbidden. If their kingdom were as strict as the Megis, they would have basically searched him at once and executed the foreign traveler. Damn, so he could have signed his death sentence by going through the contents. Marito explains that the wrath of the Demon Lord rendered many areas a barren wasteland, which is why the Megis people are sensitive when it comes to the Demon Lord. In fact, Marito reveals that the bandit leader Dakala actually used to be an assassin for Megis. The realization stuns the traveler, who finds something suspicious about his involvement. Marito emphasizes that if the book is actually a research diary, then it's going to erupt as an intercontinental problem. Marito wants the young man to rummage through the contents of the book because of its importance. The traveler asks how many are aware of the book's existence. Marito explains that only Ragdo and the king himself know of the matter. Marito reveals that Maya once tackled the greatest responsibilities in Taizu because of Sir Yugura, and that the two most likely already know about the existence of the book. The traveler is shocked because this raises the question of whether Maya is some kind of insider agent. Marito thinks otherwise and states that, while Maya can be trusted, the people of Megis are not to be trusted. Marito wonders if the traveler is willing to share the information with Elias. The traveler is beginning to understand the weight of the affair and questions what he should do. Marito tasks him with translating the book into their language. The young man argues that it would be incredibly dangerous to do that. Marito explains that the translation wouldn't receive a physical form, as all of the information would be memorized. Marito tells him that he should visit the castle daily for bits of translation, and he will be considered a consultant for the time being. The man's new responsibility will be to talk to the king and advise him about the knowledge of his world. The traveler explains that he wasn't much of a person in his world and doesn't have much expertise. Marito tells him that he doesn't care, as he wants to know more because of his curiosity. The traveler also pitches a condition that has not yet been revealed. Marito considers the arrangement, and the two of them shake hands in agreement, vowing to agree to a long-lasting relationship. After their conversation, Marito tells Ragdo that the young man is far more intriguing than he expected. Marito expresses an innate desire to have the traveler serve their country as something more than just a collaborator. Mr. King over here is a secret admirer of the goat. When Elias returns home after her day's work, she discovers a celebration party. The traveler and Wolf have arranged delicious food, especially to celebrate Elias' achievements. Even though the young man doesn't expect her undeserved prejudice to die down yet, he still wants to give her congratulations for her efforts. In a different location, under the hollows of the dark, a human communicating with the demonic force relays that they have failed to secure the book. The Horned Demon orders him to make hasty progress, as the contents of the book could prove to become a problem. The Red Demon Lord emphasizes that their relationship will be dissolved if the humans manage to uncover his existence. 10 months fly by in the blink of an eye ever since he came to this world. Wolf greets him, and our clumsy protagonist reveals that it's actually been only 2 weeks instead. Wolf's incredible adaptability allows her to communicate with people without even needing the possession of magic. She has been able to craft the common language of this world with ease. She also learned a few Japanese words from him. As for the protagonist himself, he's just loafing around and still depends on possession magic to communicate with others. He's so smart yet so dumb, perfectly balanced as all things should be. A freshly awoken Elias arrives at the scene. The traveler bugs her and tells Elias to return the greeting with a smile. Elias instead makes a scary-looking face, which the traveler thinks she should practice smiling more often. Elias thinks it's impossible to learn. The traveler's glinting smile takes her aback as he demonstrates his point. As for Wolf, she's been getting used to the gazes of others. The young man thinks that she could easily pass as a popular beast in the neighborhood. There was also a recently made announcement to recognize the demi-humans within Taizu Kingdom territory. That's why there have been a number of people sighted from the Black Wolf tribe. He also got an entrance badge from Commander Ragdo, which allowed him to meet King Marito without any problems. The two of them greet the king good morning. Marito is busy with paperwork and tells them to sit around in the meantime. The traveler maintains his position as a court jester. Wolf goes away to practice with Grandpa Kara for her routine training. Marito returns from the paperwork and explains that their schooling program is in progress. Marito didn't get an awful lot of support for trying to raise the educational standards of his country. Marito has been entertained with many ideas that the young man shared, and was astonished to note their population exceeds 7 billion humans. The current phase is a back and forth conversation that they usually share when talking about their world. The traveler answered as best he could, and they would always debate how things were in his world, and whether or not certain policies of his world could be applied in Taizu. Marito marks the end of his new policies and talks about cultural development. He wants to know about the appliances that are used for cooking. The traveler has already explained the rice cooker to him, and has decided to talk about the microwave instead. He wonders if they can recreate something with magic, even though the fundamental laws are still troubling for them to understand. Marito thinks that he would require an expert magician for the case. He hears the sounds of swords clashing against each other. Wolf is engaged in a ferocious battle, and is growing at an immense rate, despite the fact that Kara and the rest of Ragdo's team are outclassing her. The traveler thinks that Elias is a monster in her own right, with brute strength and magic power that actually eclipses Wolf's powers. Marito reveals that her mere body was able to withstand the full might of Grandpa Kara's spear. The traveler updates her name as a magical metal gorilla instead of a regular one. Marito thinks that she is inviting him to train with her. He wonders why he isn't ready to join them, as knowing how to protect oneself can be a good thing. The traveler knows this, but he still fears Elia's teaching methodology. Marito suggests he use Commander Ragdo's team for training, and would also be willing to join him. The traveler realizes that the king has more than one talent. Marito tells him that Maya has a request for him, as she wants to borrow a few knights as a guide to the other villages. Marito tells the young man to accompany them. Marito states that an envoy from the Ugura church headquarters will come to inspect the branches and the construction of churches in both villages. Grandpa Kara has been sent as an intermediary and guide, since he is trusted in the villages, as well as to Elias, who is close to Maya. The traveler questions if he is being used as a way to oversee the villages. Marito confirms and explains that he is most impressed by the young man's ability to decipher the differences between both worlds, and he hopes for him to make educated decisions in the future. The traveler emphasizes that he's no knight, and questions if it is all right for him to go. King Marito tells him there is nothing to worry about, as they have already been told about the candidate for a Department of State Affairs, who is tagging along for study purposes. The traveler is glad he's not considered a court jester out in the open. That night, after taking a shower, the young man spots Elias cleaning her blade. Elias answers his question and tells him that Wolf has already gone to sleep. The traveler is glad that she had a fulfilling day. Elias pleasantly invites him to join the training so that he can also soundly sleep. The taunt goes unappreciated, as the traveler is hesitant to join. Elias still can't get used to the fact that he is able to call the king by his name without any formalities. The young man looks at her and shares that Marito has offered him a place to live, as he'd want him to visit the castle on a daily basis, which would be closer than Elias' place. The revelation strikes Elias, and she wears a frowning expression until she hears that the young man has actually declined the king's offer. Let's go. Best girl, Elias, for the win. The traveler pleads with Elias to allow him to stay. Elias questions why he refused. The traveler explains that the first reason is Wolf, and the second reason is rather a personal matter. He flocks about the point and states that he still doesn't feel used to living in this world, and often gets anxious living in the country. Parting with those words, the young man states that he is going to sleep. Elias sees beyond the meaning of his words, and questions what he means. The traveler throws her the towel, and advises her to fit pieces of the interpretation however she likes. Elias realizes that it was his way of saying he wanted to keep relying on her. The traveler flops to his bed in exhaustion, He reflects on putting on a show by using Wolf as his first reason. In fact, he's been the only person who is anxious in this situation. He is losing himself to sentimental feelings and thinks that even though he acts like an adult in front of people, he's an immature person who can't help but depend on others. He could live in this world on his own, and remembers that every time he faced a life-threatening situation, Ilias became an essential aspect and a crucial existence that impacted his life. She has given him advice, opportunities, and even a place to live. The young man thinks that he's immature enough not to thank her properly. Even though this world is inconvenient compared to his previous world, he appreciates its mystical charms and thinks that even the bandits are living honestly. After sharing the information, the bandits were all executed 2 days after their leader's death. One of the bandits even shared a message for him, appreciating the young man for allowing them a chance to die as a person. The traveler reflects how most people live their lives sincerely in this world, as if they were innocent people. He doesn't think that he should feel disgusted by adopting means that ensure him a peaceful life. The traveler thinks that he should find a way to return to his previous world, and he wants to do so in such a way that he doesn't lose sight of the current world. Nothing else matters to him so long as he can live peacefully. Poor guy only asks for a simple life and still can't obtain something so simple. The following day, Wolf marks the completion of their preparations. Maya is surprised to receive the traveler, who asks her about the messenger sent from the headquarters. Lacra presents herself as the messenger and hopes to work together with the candidate. Lacra asserts that the candidate is rather a unique individual with an insignificant mana capacity. She wonders where he came from. The traveler excuses that he's been moving from place to place and is currently residing in Taizu. He emphasizes being born with a low mana capacity. Lacra is also stunned that he possesses a spirit for communication magic. To make up an excuse for that, the traveler explains that he had Maya use the magic on him. He shifts the topic to the Black Wolf tribe and claims that Wolf has quickly learned how to communicate with people using the common language, while he still has a long way to go for himself. He also shares that he is cooperating with a merchant who discovered the village. His hard-working lifestyle rather seduces Lacra, and the traveler returns her compliment in kind. Ilias tells them that they should initiate the meeting. Later, Maya confronts the traveler for dodging each of Lacra's questions. The traveler explains that he doesn't find it intriguing to share information about his past. Maya explains that she didn't sense a single lie. Lacra boasts the abilities of a Yugura priest, and so every answer he stated considered the possibility that she, too, possessed the lie-detecting ability, such as Maya herself. He notes how both Lacra and Maya are capable of sensing people's magic, and they're using fluctuations to decipher lies. He's glad that they can't read his mind. Maya reveals that he has been strategically using a technique to blend half-truths with half-lies, shielding him from being detected by their magic. Maya is impressed that he has prepared these answers already. He clarified that Lacra actually looks pretty beautiful, so that compliment wasn't a lie. The carriage takes them to their destination, and they end up in the village. The peaceful landscape strikes the traveler and reflects that they even have a watchtower to scout for potential monsters. The word monster doesn't really sit well with the young man, who remembers that monsters of doom and destruction actually exist in this world. The traveler comments that monsters are a rare sighting in this world, to which Ilias explains that they're actually born in the demon world, where the demon lords reign over the domain. Ilias also tells him that there is a gate to the demon world in the Taizu kingdom itself. It's beyond the trenches of the Black Demon Lord Killer Mountain, and suddenly it all starts to make sense. That mountain is the same place where he escaped the deadly slime upon entering this world. Kara explains that wyverns often pass through the mountain, but most of the monsters are easily killed by the slime. Kara emphasizes that he was just one lucky guy who survived the wrath of the slime. The traveler thinks that if the slime is capable of killing a demon lord, then probably nothing is capable of killing the monster. After the visit, Lacra shares her excitement and states that they'll be able to get support money from the Yugura Church headquarters. Yugura is actually the name of the hero who saved this world. After being revived by the forbidden resurrection magic, the demon lords terrorized the world, until one hero rose in divine blessings and defeated them all. In fact, the religion of Yuguraism was made to preserve the teachings of the hero. The traveler asks if the Holy Land resides in Megis. Lacra confirms and states that Megis is an actual kingdom, and the Pope of the Yugura Church holds all of its power. The king of Meji's kingdom discusses his affairs with the church, and the Pope's influence ultimately affects the policies. The traveler begins to dismantle the information, and realizes that the Meji's kingdom strictly prohibits forbidden magic. Because of the Yugura church itself, he finds the matter more suspicious than before, especially given Dakala's connection to the Meji's kingdom. When arriving in another village, they book the church in the village for their overnight stay. Grandpa Karo was invited to the mayor's house for special treatment, as he is a popular figure in the villages. The traveler helps himself and realizes that he should execute his role as the Department of State Affairs candidate. He busies himself with notes, only to receive someone at the door. Lacra enters the room with an apology, donning a beautiful robe. Although he is surprised at first, the young man tells her that he doesn't mind, and that he's making notes on his observations. Lacra inspects the document and discovers that he has jotted down an incredible amount of detail. The young man expresses that he wants to note down as much information as possible. While he is busy explaining his side, Lacra suddenly grabs his face from the back and begins to creep up on him. The traveler questions what is happening, while Lacra explains that she had another purpose for the inspection trip. As she makes her advances, Lacra exclaims that she is looking for a book, and asks if the candidate knows anything about the Book of Necromancy. This question is basically the definition of growing soft, because our boy gets up and walks away without an explanation. Lacra is left questioning what he is doing, while the traveler internalizes his disappointment. He knew of her intentions, but he was sad that his first intimidating encounter with someone in this world ended so soon. He even regrets the idea that she didn't make more moves before coming to the point. The traveler emphasizes that he finds it exhausting, that she only wants to get information out of him. The shocked Lacra realizes that her charm magic actually failed to work, which adds to another layer of issues for the traveler, who didn't know she was using magic. Lacra is reduced to a flustered mess and begs him to forget about the situation. The traveler helps her cope with the situation by emphasizing that her charms are working until the end. Lacra sobs, realizing that she put herself through so much embarrassment, only for the magic to backfire on her. She still doesn't know why it didn't work, as charm magic interferes with the target's mana and forces them to be charmed. The traveler deduces that it's exactly because he had low mana capacity that the magic failed to take into full effect. In fact, the poor guy thinks that he probably has one mana point, if at all, and that he can't even use healing magic, like everyone else in this world. He bullies her by saying she should have tried normal seduction, as that would have had greater chances of success. After that failure of a night, the two of them discussed information regarding the book. The Yugura headquarters sealed documents about the demon lords, and information about forbidden magic. The book itself wasn't found in the sealed documents, as Dakala stole one of the books. Because suspicions about Maya were flocking about, Lacra, a talented priest, was assigned the duty of carrying out the mission of finding the book. The word talented doesn't quite fit in this case, because the traveler is starting to question Lacra's abilities. Lacra tells him that she can use all kinds of high-level magic, and possesses enough ability to defeat an army of the undead by herself. She throws a few tantrums, while the traveler finds himself exhausted, and expresses the desire to go to bed. The moment he thought he was getting away, without being interrogated about the book, Lacra questioned him once more. The traveler feigns ignorance, and asks questions about the book. He mixes half-truths in his answers to fool Lacra with her lie-detecting magic. Lacra states that she has been using a barrier to locate the book by deploying it in many villages. It's actually a harmless barrier with regenerative abilities that specifically reacts with the book even from a long distance. She wants to put up a barrier in each village, including the royal capital, except she doesn't have the authority or the permission to do so. The traveler emphasizes that he's just a mere candidate, and doesn't really have any power in the affairs. He tells her that he can, at most, talk to the king about it, and recommends acting carefully in the future. Lacra reveals that she felt unharmed after looking at his puny mana capacity. She thought she would win by deploying whatever method, because he was so weak. The remark annoys the traveler, and that's how he manages to form a strange partnership with the girl. The scene shifts to the Meji's kingdom. The Pope, Eupero Rosalio, and the Archbishop, Akakenuk, discuss the matter pertaining to the book. They have sent Lacra for the mission, as she is a talented mage who mastered purification magic at a young age. When Eupero asks why Lacra was chosen for the role specifically, Rosalio answers that Lacra is necessary, as Maya would get careless around her and eventually drop her guard. The Archbishop reveals that he has already sent an assassin to search for the book, and while Lacra is doing her investigations, the assassin will be viciously locating the book. The Pope trusts his plan and reminds him not to complicate their relationship with the kingdom of Taizu. The Archbishop leisurely returns to his halls and thinks that his plan is being executed to perfection. He receives a sudden report from Lacra and finds himself in tatters because she has revealed their plan to a candidate. Lacra tells the Archbishop that the man is willing to cooperate with her in search of the book. The Archbishop thinks nothing of the candidate and carelessly believes that her new partner would help her on their mission. The same man working under the Red Demon Lord is visiting him at this moment. He uses his hypnosis magic and inquiries for information about Lacra's mission. The suspicious man is glad that their plan is going well and states that he wants official permission from the Archbishop to send more assassins to search for the book. The Archbishop signs the document under the effects of the hypnosis, and the suspicious man leaves without a trace. As soon as he departs, the hypnosis magic also fades. The Archbishop remembers nothing of their interaction and doesn't even recall a person being there. The traveler reports his findings to King Marito, who thinks their inspection mission has proven to be worthwhile. The young man emphasizes that he formed an unusual relationship with Lacra. King Marito wants him to make full use of her. Marito agrees that there are others involved in this mission, aside from Lacra, who could take any form, even that of an assassin. The young man inquires what should be done about the book, to which Marito explains that they really don't have time to spare, and believes that he should begin translating the book at once. Outside the castle, Lacra enthusiastically relays that she has finished her preparations. She queries him about what to do next. The young man reveals that he has managed to receive permission from the king to set up barriers in the royal capital apart from the castle. He also explains that they should set up barriers surrounding the walls of the city to ensure that someone doesn't escape with the book. Having tasked her with this mission, the traveler is confident that Lacra will be busy setting up barriers. His mission is to ensure that she doesn't discover the book at all costs. The greater worry arises in the form of the secret assassin sent on this mission along with Lacra. Elias is surprised that Lacra seems to have developed a relationship with the young man. Wolf explains that he is working hard, just like last time when he saved her from the village. The traveler suggests Lacra investigate Dakala's hideout caves. He asks if she is capable of fighting off monsters. Lacra confirms that she can bulldoze any threat with her overwhelming strength. Because he doesn't believe her, Lacra gives him a visual presentation of her powers. She's proud of her defense magic and how she formed an impregnable barrier. To test its might, the traveler instructs Wolf to attack the barrier with all of her strength. Wolf charges ahead and releases an incredible strike. However, when the smoke settles, the barrier is unscathed and remains standing. Lacra celebrates in joy, so to test out its real strength, Elias steps up to the challenge. Judging Wolf's attack power, Elias cultivates a strike of a similar level, and actually shatters the barrier with her incredible strength. Elias commends the barrier for at least blocking the attack, and states that she would have to get serious to penetrate it fully. Lacra embarrassingly tells them that it at least held its place, and that someone like the young man could never break the barrier. Well, the guy starts digging with a shovel, and throws the dirt atop the barrier. He basically traps her inside with no opening in sight. The young man questions if she is unable to manipulate the form of the barrier to a cone shape, or use wind magic to blow off the dirt. Lacra thinks that it is risky for her to run two types of magic at once. The traveler is unimpressed, and thinks that she will struggle with a mere monster with the ability to use poisonous liquid. Elias blows the dirt away, while Lacra is reduced to a crying mess thanks to the wickedness of the young man. The traveler intently bullies her without remorse. He still shares beef with her because of that night. In a dark alleyway, a cloaked man enters a room where he locates the jewel. The man reports that Lacra worked together with the young man to set up detection barriers around the royal capital. The man questions what his next order would be. He is told that the location of the book is their highest priority. The assassin also reports that the young man is an oddball in terms of his appearance, and he doesn't bear any magic powers. It's as if he bears an appearance similar to the demon race. He also reports that the young man shares a connection with Elias, who defeated Dakala and his group of bandits. He is told that the others are dispatched to help him on this mission in the meantime. Meanwhile, the Archbishop is slandered by the Pope for disrupting their relations with the Taizu kingdom. The Pope tells him to contact King Marito at once and retrieve all of the assassins dispatched. The Archbishop hurries to mend the situation that has put him in so much trouble. While he is figuring out his mess, the ominous man from before calls for his attention and casts some kind of hypnosis magic to continue commanding Lacra on her mission. Returning to the traveler, He sees Gazin, a homeless old man who doesn't really have any place to stay, and wanders around the city. The traveler has been using him as a source of information in exchange for offering him sake. Gazin reports that he hasn't noticed many changes around the city as of late. The traveler tells him that the kingdom will be possibly threatened by dangerous people lurking around, which is why he recommends he stop wandering at night. Gazin takes it as an insult, but the traveler clarifies that he is only saying it for his consideration, because Gazin is his source of information. He leaves a coin to prove the point. Gazin complies and states that he has something of his own to do. He expresses that he desires to grow some crops that he will later share with the young man. The following morning, Lacra receives an urgent notice from the kingdom of Megis. She is tasked with explaining the situation to King Marito and requesting his cooperation in searching the book. The young man decides to visit Marito for a report on the matter. Marito thinks that Lacra is a naively honest girl and that the matter will become a problem for the countries, as she has been openly revealing their plans. Marito thinks that this is Kingdom Megis' way of recovering from their mistake. On to the topic of the book, Marito, Ragdo, and the traveler enter a specially prepared room that will conceal the book's magic from leaking outside. Marito questions if the man can decipher the contents in a single night. The young man emphasizes that he has steeled his resolve and is willing to do what is necessary. They start reading at once, and the more they flip the pages, the worse it gets for them to bear. Marito sulks in grief, while the traveler is at odds with many things in the book. The first hurdle is the use of ancient letters, as the book seems to be written with letters adopted in the Taisho era. The traveler tries to think of other ways, and realizes that the contents of the books are of great trouble. Marito emphasizes that if the Ugira Church knew of the contents, they would do whatever it takes to retrieve them. In fact, the easiest choice is for them to return the object, without sharing any involvement. The young man muses that the information could very well threaten the life of the person who comprehends it. Suddenly, the man spots an important piece of information, and confirms that the Ugira Church couldn't have known about the contents, as they would burn this book. The traveler reads the haunting revelation, which is kept a secret from the readers at this point in the story. That same night, Gazin is strutting about in the open, and going against the young man's advice. He discovers noise coming from a house that should be empty. When he tries to investigate, Gazin is unfortunately struck and mercilessly killed by the assassins, as they march ahead upon their mission. Marito and the two other hooligans are dreading their decision to even bother translating the book, since it has caused a number of hair-raising concerns. The traveler even suggests that they innocently return the book to the kingdom of Megis without intruding further, but Marito beams brightly and states that he has to delve into the book's contents for the sake of his nation. The traveler isn't so enthused about doing such a thing. After having tea and cooling his head off, the traveler internalizes that they were all begging for the book to be a work of fiction, even though it was far from the horrid reality. To shift the topic, the traveler inquires if the kingdom of Taizu has its own assassins. Marito is surprised by the question, and confirms that he has a few assassins currently investigating the origins of the book, yet he cannot share their details to protect the young man's safety. The traveler emphasizes that he wants to know more about the pattern thinking and behaviors of an assassin. Marito once again denies him of the privilege and assures him that he will handle that part. Due to his pandering, Marito gives up and introduces him to one of his assassins in an astonishing manner. The assassin grabs the young man's shoulder from behind. The traveler flinches and is frightened enough to turn at once. Marito emphasizes that it would be best not to look behind, since the assassin's identity is kept a secret. The traveler gets flustered, since he is alarmed enough to suspect that he might get killed. The inconspicuous assassin apologizes for introducing himself in such a way, and explains that he's the king's bodyguard. When the traveler questions if he stays near Marito at all times, the assassin confirms the fact, and explains that he is capable of using special magic to camouflage his body. Marito even confirms that he is the most powerful figure in the kingdom of Taizu, which gives him weight as a protective force. This guy plays real life among us and is probably the hitman of this universe. The traveler is impressed and jokingly questions if the assassin has been secretly chipping off people more talented than him to maintain his position. The assassin is glad that the sharp-witted young man was able to decipher that part out loud. The assassin also explains that he has been part of all of their interactions and has come to trust the young man in reality. He mentions even contemplating killing the young man for surprising King Marito with his trick back at the banquet hall, which raises a number of concerns for the traveler. The traveler feels immense pressure and questions if the assassin is weak against the magic sealing stones, since he uses magic to conceal himself in the first place. The assassin confirms that this is the case and also notes that he has the ability to perceive and deduce the power of the magic sealing stones, thereby allowing himself the chance to avoid them at once. He coldly emphasizes that if he were to get seen by any witness, he would have to terminate them at once. Once again, the young man is startled by his words and begs the assassin not to appear in front of him. Dude, I'd literally bleach my eyes before even accidentally seeing this guy. After that, they shared a conversation delving into the abilities and the backstory of the assassin, allowing the young man to understand the role of an expert assassin even better. The traveler exits the castle quarters and finds himself blinded by the sunlight because of his overnight shift to translate the heavy text. He sees Elias and finds himself surprised that her shift is starting this early. Elias confirms that she is about to go on patrol and is embarrassed enough to question if he was sharing some good times with Lacra. The young man realizes that he's in for an Avengers level threat because the girl thinks he's interested in Lacra. He clears the misunderstanding that their affair is regarding the book that Dakala stole. Elias shows a relieved expression, while the young man apologizes for not informing her sooner about the matter. Elias tells him that it's fine and accidentally spills, and she feels sad. The young man capitalizes on her misstep and makes her even more flustered. Elias tries to sidestep the conversation by stating that Wolf is also worried about him. The traveler deduces that Wolf is most likely to be worried about Elias instead of him. Suddenly, a knight comes to inform Elias about an urgent matter. The young man acknowledges the tense atmosphere and hovers to the gathering of the knights. He spots a covered dead body and thinks that it's unfortunate. That is until he spots a familiar bottle of sake, one that he provided to Gazin. The young man's eyes widen as he succumbs to the realization. He marches ahead and takes off the cover without permission, confirming that it is indeed Gazin's dead body. Elias asks if he knows the older man. The traveler agrees and refuses to elaborate beyond that. He is told that Gazin fell to his demise while drunk and hitting his head against the wall. The young man finds the cause of death to be dubious, and he begins to connect the dots in his head. He smells the fresh sake that he had given to Gazin just the other day, and deduces that Gazin couldn't have become drunk since it's a special bottle that he asked Gaz to create. Elias wonders if there is something wrong. The traveler asks where Gazin's body will be moved. Elias explains that they will put him in the Maya church. He requests permission to come along and briefly hints about his suspicions. The young man is adamant in his belief that Gazin was murdered, a revelation that shocks Elias. He explains that Gazin should have at least used his hands to protect himself from the fall, which, in this case, he didn't since his entire body is uninjured besides his head. My guy is role-playing the world's great detective side of Batman right now. Shifting the scene to the church, Gazin's body is unveiled in front of Maya and the others. Elias reports that the man has a broken neck, and it's confirmed that the cause is anything but the injury against the wall. Realizing that a murderer broke his neck, the young man reveals an unsightly appearance of his true nature, which is enough to send shivers down Elias' spine. She feels compelled to grab him at once and questions where he is headed. The young man claims that he is heading to the castle to report the matter to Marito. Elias inquires why he's hesitant to share the matter with her. The traveler emphasizes that he doesn't want to involve them in their discussion, to which Elias roars, saying that she is already involved. The young man reminds her she will have to shoulder the burden of keeping the matter a secret. Elias affirms that she is fine with doing that, so long as she is able to help the traveler shoulder the burden together. When told that she will come to regret her choices, Elias once again determines that she wants to regret reality being a part of him, rather than letting him regret it alone. Best girl Elias counter 1. Her words are able to dispel his cold and heartless state, who wonders why she is so stubborn about their ordeal. He thinks that it is partly his fault for hinting at his emotions, which is something he usually doesn't bring to the surface. The traveler hopes Marito will resolve his situation at the castle. He finally resigns and agrees to take her along. Elia's face beams with delight as she has managed to proclaim victory. Later, at the castle, Marito calls into question the appearance of Elias. The traveler explains that she willingly wanted to get involved in the matter. Marito knows that the young man could have pushed her away if he really wanted to, but he chose to value their relationship instead. King Marito declares that their situation and conflicts have become alarming, which is why Elias should resign any expectations of savoring her relationships with Maya and Commander Ragdo's team if it comes to be the case. He reminds her that she will have to choose between the young man, who is a stranger to her, and her allies. The knight Elias declares that she is ready to accept that reality. When Marito inquires what compels her to act in such a manner, Elias has no answer except her determination. Marito turns to the traveler and emphasizes that he'll be the one to take responsibility. As such, the man immediately explains that Lacra is under the threat of being assassinated. Of course, for Elias, this is like jumping into chapter 5 of the story without explaining chapter 1. To make amends, the traveler tries to explain from the point of view of the demon lord worshipper in the Yugura church, which, once again, just like us readers, Elias raises her hands since she doesn't know anything about the matter. The young realizes that he has to explain from the very beginning to keep her up to date. After a long-winded explanation, he arrives at the part of them deciphering the book. Elias questions why Lacra's life is in danger. The young man explains that the Yugura church operates with 2 goals, one of which is to recover their treasured, lost book, and the second is to resolve the doubts of the people about Maya's incompetence. Since Maya is as clumsy as she is, the young man has reason to believe that she has dispatched a team in secret to do the job for her. If such a possibility does come to be the case, it's fairly obvious that this team will have to conceal their identities and will have to take the role of the assassins. Elias connects the dots and realizes that it must be the assassins who killed Gazan. I love how Elias is being utilized as a device to explain things to the readers. Brilliant job. The young man confirms and shares the problematic timeline of the affairs. He explains that Archbishop Uka is mainly responsible for ordering Lacra about her mission. Yet, upon closer inspection, they've come to notice that even the Archbishop Uka is taking orders from someone above. King Marito explains that there is only one person above Uka, Pope Eupero, who wouldn't issue such orders since he was trying to maintain their relationship strongly, and even requested cooperation. Despite the call for cooperation, Gazan was at once killed the second they wanted to negotiate peacefully. That's the concerning part, as it indicates that there is another person issuing commands to the assassins, a man of powerful influence in Yugura Church, a man who specifically rebels against the Pope's will. The traveler explains that their mission is to acquire this book, and hints at the person who is most likely to acquire the book. Elias jolts into the realization that it's actually Lacra, who boasts the most chances of acquiring the fabled book. The young man confirms that if their suspicions are correct, the goal would be to steal the book before it even reaches the kingdom of Megis. This would, in turn, require the murder of Lacra, as they would have to steal the book from her. As for the contents of the book itself, the young man emphasizes that it's a dangerous topic, as the reason most people are hunting this book down is not because this book is related to necromancy, but because this book is regarding a demon lord. Marito explains that forbidden magic is necessary to give rise to such demon lords, and although there was little information about the magic itself, the record before them is the observations and events regarding the birth of the Blue Demon Lord, who is one of the entities born as a result of resurrection magic. Elias is alarmed and finds herself shocked at once. The traveler explains that the book is of utmost importance, and that it's likely the Pope of the Yugura Church himself has failed to decipher the book, since he would have made proper arrangements and sent someone far more competent for the job, instead of Lacra. Poor girl Lacra is getting dis left and right behind her back, ha ha ha. The young man declares that the book originated from the kingdom of Megis, therefore, its existence is only known to the Yugura Church and the kingdom itself. He has suspicions that there is one man who knows the contents of the book, that even the Pope himself is unaware of. That man is the individual hiding under the shelters of the Yugura Church, while knowing everything about the demon lords. Elias realizes that this is the demon lord worshipper that the young man alluded to previously. The traveler explains that it is at least certain there is someone in the Yugura Church who is issuing orders to the assassins to recover the book, and they get to be the ones to stop them from achieving their goals. Now that everything has been fleshed out and explained, Marito states that he is to give Lacra the book today, and wonders if the young man has any ideas. The traveler answers that their chances of success have all increased because of the involvement of Elias. They go about their little meeting about a plan that has not yet been revealed to the readers. King Marito finds it a great plan, but wonders if he is truly on board with this. The black dialogue boxes hint that this is the young man's true side speaking, as he is compelled by the thought of avenging Gazan. King Marito resigns the affair under his care, while the traveler inquires if Elias is truly up for the job. Elias plunges her blade into the ground and confirms that she will hold her blade, promising to exceed his expectations. The young man exits the room, declaring that he will be the one to expose their plan. From the perspective of Elias, who serves as an exposition tool for the readers, she has clearly noted the shift in the young man's demeanor after witnessing the death of someone he valued. Elias realizes that the young man tries his best to suppress this side of him, and he is slowly advancing to their end. But she is gravely mistaken. He has the capability to become the ultimate justice or the manifestation of evil. Elias also believes that King Marito is the one taming the traveler, and she doesn't know how that will resolve, as he would probably prioritize the side of him that is cruel and heartless. Elias regrets seeing his eyes full of dread, devoid of any emotion. She doesn't want him to experience the world with such eyes, and vows to stay by his side. Best girl Elias counter 2. Lacra, being the clumsy, naive yet adorable fool that she is, thinks that she's doing her job in a stellar manner, having put up all the necessary barriers. Suddenly, she spots the one she refers to as the candidate, and questions why he's here. The young man immediately jumps to the point and explains that the book is residing in the castle's treasury. Lacra's face lights up in joy as she commends him for finding the book at last. He tells her basic information about the book, such as its otherworldly language and its contents relating to necromancy. Lacra explains that necromancy can be distinguished based on the illustrations, which the human confirms were drawn in the book. Lacra warns him not to memorize any of the contents and asks if she is fine with taking the book. The young man confirms that she can, but he wants her to relay a message to the archbishop before she is able to do so, declaring that the language could possibly be deciphered in the kingdom of Taizu, and that if the church aims for the contents to be deciphered, the kingdom of Taizu requires them to share the contents of the book. Lacra defies such a condition because the knowledge of necromancy shouldn't be known commonly. The man emphasizes that the contents aren't just related to necromancy, which is why he extends the proposal to her. The traveler emphasizes that the reason he became a candidate is because he was hired by King Marito to decipher the contents of the book. This fact, once again, is a half-truth that Lacra can't see through, and the traveler excellently takes advantage of it. The traveler pleads with her to inform Archbishop Ucca that the matter could jeopardize Pope Eupero's career, and if the church still rejects their proposal, they'll return the book at once. He tells her to return at midnight for the answer, and he will bring the book regardless of the conclusion. Lacra understands his demands and declares that she will inform the archbishop at once. She turns to leave, while the young man internalizes how each of those who could see through lies is easily manipulated and trusting of him, since he can sway them with half-truths. That's why it's so easy for him to take advantage of people like Lacra. The young man knows that the so-called mastermind pulling the strings from the shadows is also going to get wind of this message, and he is looking forward to meeting his advance. Sheesh, he's just finessing the lie detectors with his expert manipulation. The scene shifts to the leader of the assassins group, the Demon Lord Worshipper, who is assigned to this mission. Hade receives new information from his master about Lacra's position. His master tells them to make adjustments accordingly, and issues an order to kill both Lacra and her partner to retrieve the book. He even emphasizes that the death of Lacra's partner, that being the black-haired young man, is more important than Lacra herself. He wants Hade to return with the man's brain, without any damage. Hade doesn't comprehend the man's objectives and accepts the order. On the other hand, the Demon Lord Worshipper recalls the peculiar features of the young man, and questions if he is an earthling. He uses a communication device to link with the Red Demon Lord and explains that there is something he must know. Exactly at midnight, Hade and his group of assassins gather around their targets, who are waiting for Lacra. Hade has 4 assassins under him, and he doesn't appreciate the thought of battling against Elias, who is one of the strongest knights of the Taizu kingdom. Instead, he prefers taking on the demi-human, who boasts little skill compared to her magic power. Hade thinks that they can eliminate her at once if they attack together. As for the young man, he's just considered F-tier fodder and the easiest target within reach. The main trouble comes in the form of the magician, who has just arrived. Lacra Sulf is a woman who possessed extraordinary fighting capabilities, contrasting her unreliability. Hade thinks the situation will become unfavorable for them if both Elias and Lacra join forces, as they would push them into a retreat. Hade directs 2 of his men to distract Elias, while the rest will fixate their efforts in killing Lacra. The traveler reveals that he has the book on him, but Lacra is almost embarrassed to confess that the archbishop fully declined their proposal and demanded a retrieval of the book. Of course, this was within the young man's expectations, so he willingly offered her the book for free. Lacra can't comprehend why he would simply follow his words, even if the church rejected their proposal. She can't comprehend how he is able to return it without hesitation. The young man reasons that the Taizu kingdom doesn't hope to worsen their relationship with the kingdom of Megis and the Yugura church. Of course, his reasoning is sound and can be considered a half-truth. Elias hears a sound coming from around the block and loudly declares that she will check the field. The assassins are all stunned because it's not a sound that they made. They're grateful that Elias separated from the group regardless, giving them the perfect opportunity to strike. The traveler tells Lacra that she should accomplish her objective without thinking much of it. Just as she is about to receive the book, the young man drops it on the ground and pretends as if that was a genuine mistake. While they are busy grabbing it from the ground, the assassins pounce upon them in an effort to kill the distracted three. Lacra is about to be eliminated from behind when Elias the Knight immediately arrives with a wide-range slash attack, fending off their strike. The attack protected all three of them and showed her impressive might in battle. Lacra doesn't know what's happening, and the traveler grabs her and orders Lacra to set up a barrier at once. Lacra instantly casts her defensive barrier without question, while Hade descends to the ground. Hade is rather impressed that Elias was able to negate multiple attacks with a single strike at that range. Elias thinks it wasn't even that much of a deal since they anticipated the attack. She also reveals that her strategy to leave was intentional, to outplay the assassins. Hade catches on that the strategy to drop the book was also intentional, and mentions his interest in learning necromancy like Dakala. His confession confirms to the young man that these are the assassins belonging to the Megis kingdom. Lacra is perplexed because she still doesn't know what's going on. The traveler explains that instead of the Archbishop Uka, someone else has made her a target of assassination. Elias prepares herself to face the three assassins in front of her. Hade reminds her that they're not to be underestimated, as one of the assassins easily recovered from her previous attack. Hade believes they have a chance of victory, since Lacra has sealed herself inside the barrier, allowing them the chance to defeat Elias and the demi-human. Elias thinks that they're being overconfident, and thinking only three will be enough to take down the legendary knight. The assassin confirms that they're not so stupid as to attack head-on, and immediately casts his invisibility magic. The magic conceals their presence, troubling Elias and startling Lacra, who gets attacked by one of the assassins. Meanwhile, Wolf is struggling against the invisible assassins. Lacra is bawling her eyes out in worry. The young man emphasizes that they will all be okay, and glares at her with his calculating eyes. Lacra is intimidated enough to question why he's making such a face. The young man realizes that he messed up once more by making that idiotic face while he's strategizing in his mind. He cools down and tells Lacra that it will be over soon, thanks to his strategy. Bro has a resting planning face. Returning to Wolf's fight, she slowly gets overwhelmed by the inconspicuous and troublesome assassins. Wolf confesses that she wants to give up being normal, and instead charges her powers to eliminate them, using non-conventional strategies of her own. Releasing the surge of magic power, Wolf prepares a fist and declares that she will exemplify her master's teachers. The assassin thinks that she's giving them a wide opening with such an attack. He mocks the attack until he realizes that Wolf has switched to a palm attack. Even that is a trick within a trick, as Wolf was actually reaching to clap both her hands. The moment her two hands connect, they release an extraordinary surge of energy, sending the assassin flying back. For the explanation of the technique, the young man explains that it's basically nothing more than a mere hand clap, except it is filled with an immense magical power. The origin of this power emerged during one of Maya's training lectures about releasing magic power. While Wolf had concentrated magic power in her hands, a mosquito appeared, and that mosquito had disintegrated from existence because of this wolf girl. The rest of them were all startled by the strange attack. After dealing a potent blow to the assassin, Wolf proceeds to follow up by leaping ahead and landing a bone-crushing drop kick, claiming her victory. Wolf stands victorious after her battle, even though the assassins think of her as nothing more than trash. Elias reminds them that she is a talent that became immensely powerful within a month of training. The assassins attack Elias, who deflects the strike and dares to finish them swiftly. A single strike of her blade cleaves one of the assassins into two, as she reminds them that even with their abilities, she can sense their presence. Hade is in trouble because he has just realized that Elias was holding back her strength up to this point. She pulled a Sukuna and bisected a guy. Hade is starting to grapple with the reality that he doesn't have great chances in this battle. He remembers that the otherworldly man is their top priority in killing, and he even looks to Wolf to realize that she is exhausted. Hade casts a smoke screen strike and distracts Elias with his attack. His intention is to grab Wolf, and he thinks that they'll finally be able to gain the upper hand. That is, until a destructive spear completely annihilates his arm. Haid fails to comprehend where the attack even came from. Grandpa Kara launched it from miles away. Haid orders his men to provide him assistance, but they've already been sliced and diced to pieces thanks to the wrath of the greatest knight in Kingdom Taizu. Commander Ragdo demonstrates his mighty strength, paired with the famous spear god, Kara. Haid questions if this ultimate strategy was all the result of the young man. The traveler comes out to explain that this strategy is effective for people like him, which is why he intentionally calculated every step of the process and made Ragdo and Kara appear late into battle. This guy is adding praise to Aizen's name, like the video if you think the same. He was the one who made Elias leave the area, then gave them an opening for Lacra. He also allowed them a clear opportunity to attack Wolf, thinking that they would get the upper hand. In short, Haid now understands that the young man is out for blood. The young man vengefully declares that this is the outcome of the assassins having killed an innocent vagabond. Haid thinks of Gazen's death as a tiny significance, but the young man reminds him that they will die for their actions. Haid is also revealed to be the one who disguised Gazen's death and made it act like it was an accident. Haid is intimidated by the young man's eyes and questions if he's even on the right side, since he acts the opposite of a hero. Imagine being such a terrifying force that even the villains want you on their side. The young man emphasizes that he's never killed anyone, even once. Haid thinks that it's a terrible excuse since he utilizes others to do the job for them. Haid makes his escape at once, and even though Elias tries to seize him, he manages to flee their sights. Ragdo and the others are left standing, as if nothing even happened. Lacra is losing her mind, because the book is under the control of the assassins. She bothers the young man for what they'll do as a response. The young man pretends that they're in trouble, and for the first time, Lacra realizes that he's lying. The traveler praises her for finally making use of her ability as if to sarcastically mock that she has never been able to do so before. Poor Lacra doesn't know she has been getting manipulated ever since their first encounter. While Haid thinks that he has made his escape, he is confident that the book is their true objective. As he is about to cross the walls of the kingdom, suddenly he realizes that Lacra's barrier is interfering with his exit. Lacra's powers allow her barriers to send a resonance of a location when they come in contact with the book. In short, the rest of them are now aware of Haid's location. When Haid looks to his back, he gets eviscerated by a beam that also tears away the wall. Thus, this becomes the grave of the leader of the assassins. The young man turns to the site and notes that Elia's projectile attack makes it seem like it was the work of some cannon. With the resonance ability, they were able to pinpoint Haid's location. After that, since Grandpa Kara had a range problem reaching the end of the barrier, Elias volunteered to reach it with her monstrous strength. That's exactly what happened, rendering Haid a gruesome death with his body splattered all over. Thankfully, the book is just fine, because the young man used Commander Ragdo's strengthening spell before kickstarting his strategy. He also retrieves the orb that Haid used as a communication device with the Demon Lord Worshipper. In the next scene, the group has gathered in the castle, waiting for contact to be made. Lacra stands helpless as she doesn't know what's going on so far. Wolf is asleep, while Ragdo, Lacra, Elias, King Marito, and the young man are all waiting in wait. Finally, the orb begins to illuminate as the man, on the other hand, demands Haid to submit his report. The young man answers with glee after knowing the dead assassin's name. This interesting turnaround amuses the Demon Lord Worshipper. The young man declares that he's just their guinea pig target that they have been wanting to kill. This admission makes the Demon Lord Worshipper realize that Haid has failed in his operation. He questions what the young man expects of him. The traveler claims that he was just using this as a way to talk, and mocks him for trying to kill him. The Demon Lord Worshipper explains that he was after the traveler's brain, so that he could retrieve any information he needed. The young man thinks that it's a lame hobby and asks for his name. Lahide introduces himself in kind. The young man cleverly glances towards Lacra to see if the name rings an emotional response. He realizes that she doesn't know such a person. Lahide wonders if he has some questions for him, and teases the young man about his secret identity. The young man strongly counters that he's nothing more than the Demon Lord's lapdog. Safe to say, Lahide is surprised and questions how he was able to draw such a conclusion. The young man replies that he's deciphered the contents of the book and emphasizes that even Lahide knows the contents, which is also why there was an order made to kill him. While Elias, Marito, and Lacra are stunned by this revelation, the young man exerts verbal pressure and questions if Lahide is fearful of his connections being exposed with the Demon Lord. Lahide's shift in demeanor only confirms the man's answers, who playfully challenges the Demon Lord Worshipper to put more of his composure against his words. Bruh, he's just dog walking him in this conversation and toying with his food. While the room grows silent, the young man decides to entertain Lahite and reveals that the book is actually a record of observations made specifically on the Blue Demon Lord. The original caster is someone who used to be a human and used resurrection magic to revive a man, manifesting him into the Blue Demon Lord. The book contains the record of that information. Not only that, the book suggests that there are a minimum of 4 demon lords who were birthed by the same figure, who could cast forbidden resurrection magic. The book includes details about the individual lifestyles of the people with whom the author was in contact before turning his test subjects into the demon lords. In fact, the author was actually responsible for killing those people to begin with. The young man furthers his explanation, stating that the person who bestowed their powers upon the demon lords mentioned their abilities. The demon lords are able to maintain a demon world of their own, which would become their respective territories, as well as the power to turn humans into demons. The demon lords were all given exclusive abilities as well. Out of the 4, the Blue Demon Lord reigned his dominion over the undead, and was called the Emperor of the Undead. The author of this book, the one responsible for creating the demon lords, shared all of his knowledge in order to wreak permanent chaos and unleash disaster upon the world. So, the worst has yet to come, goddamn. After his explanation, Lahite is now convinced that the young man truly decoded the book, and confirms that the traveler is an earthling. The young man confirms that he is, but in turn, he has also confirmed that Lahite isn't an earthling. That's because the way he pronounced earth sounded nothing like the word itself, as if he had only heard the word from others. Subtle gestures like these are an excellent way to showcase intelligence. The young man turns to the matter of Lahite serving the demon lords. He claims that their abilities are recorded in the book, which would become a real threat to their existence if the information was released to the public, which is why Lahite is so bent upon seizing it. Lahite reminds him that the Ugura Church was looking for the book in their investigations. The young man hammers him for keeping the contents of the book a secret from the Pope. When Lahite questions how he knows of the fact, the young man quotes the text directly from the book, confirming the return and revival of the fallen demon lords, which could once again rain destruction upon the world. Lahite is impressed by the traveler and asks how this links him with the demon lord. The young man explains that Lahite is the one who seized Dakala's arm. In fact, it all began with the leader of the bandits, as he was an assassin of Meji's kingdom. There is the fact that Dakala entrusted a stranger with the book and betrayed his kingdom. The reason is simple. Dakala knew the forbidden resurrection magic user was an earthling, except Dakala himself couldn't read the contents, so he only had Lahite as his source of information. After finding out that Lahite was puppeteering the archbishop from behind the scenes, he realized that his country had fallen to the control of the demon lord in secret. That is the reason he stole the book and later realized it wasn't something that he could handle. Finally, when an earthling appeared in the flesh, Dakala entrusted the book to him. In short, Dakala was hoping that he would be the one to overcome Lahite, who was hiding behind the crystal ball. Lahite is amused and confirms that Dakala was an exceptional man who managed to see through him. The young man continues that Lahite, although he was manipulating the Ugura Church, was still struggling to get a hold of the book, which is why he allowed Dakala to do so and rid the world of the book. Lahite praises the earthlings for their intellectual ability because of the young man's excellent deduction. However, this too is an attempt to stroke the traveler's ego, who knows that Lahite thinks of him as nothing more than a stupid man for revealing so much information. So Dakala was a good guy all along. The traveler confirms that he doesn't want to live an intelligent life and instead hopes to live a safe life. He follows that if he truly wanted to live that kind of life, he would have become just like Lahite, who took advantage of others, thinking that he was superior. The young man had seen many people living like that, and it was the kind of life that he rejected. Lahite mocks the young man's conscience for not living in such a way. The young man declares that he is weak, and so he wants to live peacefully as his only objective. It's time to reveal the exciting plot twist. While they were having this conversation, Lahite immediately gets attacked by Archbishop Uka. The young man had already informed Pope Eupero of everything through Maya, about the mastermind's existence within the church. This entire conversation was once again an excellent device, serving as a plan to seize Lahite, the mastermind. The Archbishop Uka corners Lahite, who realizes that his hypnosis has warded off. Uka shouts that his dirty tricks will no longer take effect upon him. Lahite realizes that Uka has prepared himself with mind resistance magic to counter the effects of the hypnosis. Uka orders him to surrender at once. Lahite emphasizes that the Archbishop is mistaken in assuming such a thing. He attacks Uka with crystals appearing from his blind spot. Uka is able to flee from their wrath, while Lahite casually walks away and bids his farewell. An angered Uka hammers down Lahite with the incredible force of his gravity magic. As Lahite descended to the ground, he noticed the magic circle that Uka skillfully cast above him. Lahite is impressed by Uka's abilities, even though he is considered the weakest of the archbishops. Uka confirms that he is weak, and even though his abilities are inferior to those of the ones sharing his rank, Uka voices that he is still an archbishop in his own right. With Lahite pinned to the ground, Uka assumes victory. Lahite is able to use more of his tricks and manages to destroy the magic circle above. The ceiling crumbles, while Lahite is made free and is about to escape. That is until Lahite is affected by sleeping incense, specially prepared to compromise his abilities. With the last of his powers, Lahite hurries to deploy the barrier and somehow fails to do so. Uka voices for the third time that Lahite's games have come to an end. He seals Lahite within a barrier, permanently ridding him of the idea of his escape. Lahite descends to pick up the magic crystal from the incense. He is stunned to find the magic sealing stone, and notes that this is the reason he cannot deploy his barrier. Lahite thinks that he has been outplayed in the end, and also comments on how Uka was able to cast not one, but two barriers at once, shifting the second barrier to entrap him with the incense. The archbishop, who had been made a toy after all this time, was able to pull such terrifying tactics. Lahite assesses his situation, and thinks that he can't break the barrier because of his sealed magic, and the effects of the incense are overwhelming his body. He takes out a dagger and openly proclaims his defeat. Uka reminds him that such a tiny dagger wouldn't help him salvage the situation. Lahite corrects the archbishop, claiming that their goal is to extract information from him, and if he takes care of that aspect, it will still be his victory. Uka suddenly realizes Lahite's intention. The man dons the creepiest smile on his face before slicing his neck. This moment became the end of Lahite, who proudly chose his own fate in the end. Budget Mojito lived and died like a true villain with respect. After his death, the kingdom of Megis reported that he became responsible for his death so as to escape punishment. His corpse was also sealed properly so that no other party could get their hands upon it. The young man was surprised that Uka's powers managed to overwhelm Lahite to such an extreme extent. Lakra told him that it is actually because Uka is her combat teacher, which is reflective of her abilities as well. Bro got tired of being hypnotized so much that he straight up said, "You're catching all of the smoke now." King Marito explained roughly all of the contents of the book to Archbishop Maya as she was cleared from suspicion. Even Pope Eupero intends to travel to the kingdom of Taizu to apologize for the incident and retrieve the book himself. With that, the young man thinks that it's all over. Disrupting his peace, Marito points to the fact that the demon lord who is responsible for using Lahite is still alive and well. The young man knows this and tells Marito to handle the affair himself with Pope Eupero. Marito offers him the role of explaining the situation himself, but the young man thinks it's too heavy a role for him. Marito jokingly states that the traveler should just become the king instead. That aside, they haven't advanced much, even after solving much of the puzzle. The greatest prophecy of the book is still a huge problem, which they haven't told the others about. The young man thinks that it will become so catastrophic that their entire world will be in chaos. When he thinks about his peaceful days to follow, Marito tells him that he has to show up tomorrow, as well to tell him more about his world. The traveler states that it was just a front, and not really an important aspect, as the book was their main priority. Due to Marito's interest, he wants to extend the contract with the young man, who is so exhausted that he will never be able to attain peaceful days in the end. Get this man his peaceful days. In the scene to follow, the traveler arrives at Maya's church. Wolf lightens up to spot her master as she is working hard in her studies. Maya commends Wolf and taunts the young man for always scheming with King Marito. She howls at him for influencing Elias to the point that she keeps Maya's secrets. On a different note, Maya is glad that Elias is experiencing much mental development, as the girl is only chasing after her father's shadow. Maya appreciates the change, but she doesn't like the fact that this newbie from another planet is compromising her relationship with her best friend's daughter. The young man apologizes and turns to Wolf. He apologizes to Wolf as well. Wolf is confused and wonders if she did something wrong. The young man doesn't hide the fact that he used Wolf as bait in his strategy against the assassins, making her look like the weakest target as an effective method. Even though there could have been others, he used Wolf as bait. For that, the young man confesses that he is no different than the torturers of the Black Wolf tribe, who use her for their means. Wolf is irked by this admission and denies him of such a comparison. She tells him that he was angry on behalf of Wolf back in the village, which became the most precious treasure of the wolf girl. Wolf thinks that it's fine for him to get angry on behalf of others, and that she wants to help him in his cause. The young man is pleasantly struck by her words and pats her. He thinks that she will grow up and become an amazing person, instead of being someone like him, with his emotions getting stirred. Even though he knew Gazin for a few moments, the young man's emotions spiraled upon his death, which is why Elias warned him to such an effect. In memory of the deceased vagabond, the young man suggests that they grow some crops inside their home. Having soaked his hands in malicious acts, the young man internalizes that he is not a good person, but he wants to find the book Gazin has been keeping to grow his crops. When he does, the man wants to offer Gazin a few crops as a memory, despite knowing the older man's appreciation for sake. Comment down RIP Gazin in the comments to pay respects. That said, the man has some tragic news to share with Wolf. He officially declares that Lacra is joining their house. Wolf is confused and wonders why it's considered sad news at all. A few hours ago, while he was enjoying the nice weather and thriving in his peaceful life, the young man had come to appreciate magic, as the damages from the battle were completely restored. In fact, they were also able to recover the castle wall that was destroyed by Elia's destructive attack, and made it look brand new. Commander Ragdo and his men prioritized their efforts to fix the damages within a single night. Their abilities impress the young man, who acts like a little child wanting to learn magic of his own. While he is having fun by himself, a sobbing Lacra is endlessly crying. The young man doesn't want anything to do with her misery, and wants to leave. Lacra grabs him, while he begs her to let him enjoy a good day for once. Lacra shares that she got kicked out of Maya's church. The young man is surprised they expelled her, but Lacra states that she didn't really get expelled. The traveler notes that Lacra is useless and made too much of a mess in Maya's church until Pope Eupero's arrival. The barriers that she installed around the villages were also pretty slow to progress, as the other priests could do the job much faster. The young man had already expected her expulsion to happen, but he wasn't expecting it to be so soon. Lacra pleads with him for help, but he's got no chance and doesn't cater to her requests. He tells her that he's living in Alia's place and can't accept another freeloader. Lacra teases him for living under the roof of a young man. Lacra shares that her supervision is necessary for their household. Her lame excuse isn't entertained by the young man, who shuts her down. Lacra begs him so much that he resigns and gives up hope. Elias turns up with a snack and states that she is fine with keeping her around. The young man is most surprised by her easygoing attitude. Elias states that she can't really ignore a woman sleeping outside in the open. The young man thinks that she acts too much like a cool hero, and reminds her that they only have 3 bedrooms to work with. He also doesn't want Lacra to share her bedroom with Lacra since they're all freeloaders. Elias suggests Lacra stay in Wolf's bedroom, but the traveler gets offended and thinks that her uselessness might transfer to the poor girl. Elias suggests that they should utilize the storage room instead. The young man thinks they should ask for Wolf's consent first. At present, Wolf accepts Lacra because she is fond of her. The young man is defeated as a result, and thinks that they should clean up the storage room fast. They get to work while Lacra is watching. The second he decides to contribute to their clearing mission, she trips and falls. When she is enjoying her bath, Lacra spots a spider and screams, blaming the young man for the spider. After a while, they're able to clean the storage room. That's when Lacra once again trips and falls, ruining their floor. At night, Elias returns home from her shift and is welcomed by her 3 wonderful freeloaders. She's also surprised that she had so much stored in her storage room. The furniture had all to do with her family. Elias inspects the sword and states that the weapon was given to her father by the previous king. While her father was a knight of Taizu, Elia's mother was a priest. She claims that they were great parents and hopes to donate the items to Maya's church, as well as Ragdo's group. When looking at her father's clothes, Elias is surprised that they're the same as the young man's size. She wants him to try the outfit and thinks that he will become a righteous person by chance. The young man jokes that it would only mean the outfit is cursed. With a smile on her face, Elias thinks they should resume the matter tomorrow and relays King Marito's message. After sharing dinner, the 3 freeloaders and the knight go off to sleep. The following day, King Marito declares that Elias has an important mission to guard someone with her life. Elias is surprised, while the young man thinks that Marito probably means Pope Eupero. Marito explains that he won't be coming soon, and that this so-called important person is actually a traveler from another world. Marito emphasizes that the traveler is invaluable and might become a target of people like Lahite in the future. This is to ensure he is protected. Even though Marito's explanation is sound, the young man is at odds with the fact that Elias gets to be his bodyguard. He is conflicted, so King Marito wonders if he wants a male bodyguard instead. Of course, this remark pushes Elias' buttons. The young man knows that he is in some serious hot water, so he makes up for the situation by stating that he actually prefers a woman. The young man draws his contention, stating that his compatibility with Elias isn't the best, and among the knights, he'd rather take Grandpa Kara. This bold declaration said without a thought spirals Elias. Does our boy want an early death or something? She's not gonna let that comment slide. What actually ends up happening is that Elias challenges Grandpa Kara in a show of strength and an all-out duel to prove that she is the strongest. Poor Grandpa Kara doesn't even know what happened. Rest in peace, Grandpa Kara, you were a good man. Grandpa Kara clings to the young man and wonders why she is so upset. The traveler explains it's because Marito assigned her to protect him, and it all led to this outcome. Grandpa Kara inquires what truly made her upset, and if a comment derailed her. The young man remembers that he told Marito to assign him Grandpa Kara instead of Elias. This offended her to the point Grandpa Kara is now part of a duel. Grandpa Kara reminds him that the knights highly value honor, and that she would obviously be offended by his bold remark. Grandpa Kara enters the battle, and thinks that he got needlessly tangled, although he is impressed that the boy honors him to such a level. The spear god prepares his weapon, while the young man internalizes that this will be his first true inference of their strength. Elias bears monstrous power, while Grandpa Kara has great abilities. The battle begins with Grandpa Kara advancing to attack Elias. His spear is dodged by the precise movements of Elias. Grandpa Kara returns for a second blow, and tries to overwhelm Elias with his speed. Elias takes note of the young man's remark, and gets even more pissed about their comparison. She casually holds up poor Grandpa Kara, and launches him away. While he is recovering from the fall, Elias pummels down with her massive strength. The weight of her attack is enough to paralyze him in his place. Grandpa Kara is officially defeated. The young man thinks that Kara literally died from shock, but it's revealed that his lower back gave out, blocking the attack. Okay, now that's just hilarious. With him defeated, the young man scolds Elias for not going easy on an older man. Elias counters that he is a veteran knight, meaning she couldn't hold her punches. She is also embarrassed to admit that she did it to prove herself as the strongest. The young man inquires if she is still upset about his remark. He clarifies that he only said those words because Kara makes it easier for him to make plans. The young man explains that he prefers succeeding in his plans, and someone like Kara follows them precisely as asked. When compared to Elias' overpowered strength, as much as she is powerful, she becomes an obstacle, as her enemies would know of her might. The young man thinks that it would be too easy for him to resolve situations if she protects him. Instead, he wants someone to be versatile and adapt to his plans, for his enemies to become overwhelmed. In a way, he wants to appear weak and defenseless in front of his enemies. Now, that's a 3000 IQ play. The young man pats Elias and states that he will ruin his planning abilities if he relies on Elias' strength, and he doesn't wish for that to happen. He apologizes to her, and as a result of his apology, Elias goes away to apologize to Grandpa Kara. While he is compromised on his bed after suffering the injury from the fight, Elias apologizes for hurting him and involving him in a personal affair. Kara doesn't think much of it, and shares how glad he is that she is stubborn regarding the young man. Kara declares that love is the reason why. Of course, such a comment once again receives a brooding challenge from Elias, who is ready to hit his lower back for an added taste of injury. I swear this old man is signing up for his funeral after barely surviving the fight, haha. Kara thinks he's about to die, so he tells her that love is characterized by admiration for another person. It's a yearning for something that one doesn't have by himself. Kara explains that the young man shares a different code of life from the knights. He is willing to go down the path of evil if it means accomplishing his goals, which runs opposite to the knights who value their moral code the most. Grandpa Kara believes that Elias admires him for doing both good and evil with his code in order to accomplish his objectives. Of course, it's not something she would ever do. But for the young man, it's different because he understands the righteous way, as well as the methodical, calculating strategies. To nail the point, Kara tells Elias that she actually wants him to acknowledge her, because he is capable of doing the things that she would never be able to do. Elias is flustered and somewhat disheartened, receiving such an explanation. She thinks of herself as an immature person, but Kara thinks otherwise. Kara confesses that being acknowledged by the ones who have everything they don't is a joyous outcome. Elias smiles, hearing his soothing words, and thanks him before leaving. After she leaves, Grandpa Kara feels betrayed by the boy who very nearly killed him as a result of a stupid battle. That night, Elias shares a meal with the young man and apologizes once more. Elias has become his bodyguard due to the outcome of the duel, and he questions why he's keeping a stick around. The young man gets pumped and explains that this is his wooden stick of destruction that he picked all the way back in the forest. Elias remarks that it's a stupid weapon that will split in half easily. She offers him other weapons. The young man prefers using the wooden stick as a symbol of his resolution. It reminds him that even with his strong allies, he is as frail as a stick. This is not a weapon against his opponents, but to combat his pride. It's also the most powerful stick in the entire universe, of course. He also talks about his eventual leave. Elias wonders what he implies by those words. The young man explains that, eventually, he plans to leave the country to explore other countries. Elias questions if he is discontent with living in the kingdom of Taizu. The young man corrects her, stating that he wants to return to his previous world. Even though he is enjoying life in the present moment, he doesn't know how it will be in the future. He doesn't want to miss the advancements and conveniences offered by his original world, and fears the thought of getting bored on this foreign planet. That's why he wants to create a failsafe measure until then. Elias tells him that if he does that, Wolf will be lonely. The young man explains that he will ensure she becomes independent and learns to admire her world, so that her dependence on him wards off. When Elias asks about his friends and family back on Earth, the young man is stung by the sudden topic and chooses not to delve deeper into his personal life for the time being. After he leaves, Elias is haunted by his words and methods of going about life. She knows that the path of evil influences him, and he masters the path without hesitation. She thinks that someone like herself would never be able to return from such a path, but he does it without problem and maintains a balance. Elias is reminded of Grandpa Kara's words and thinks that they're the same in that regard, as they're drawn to each other for qualities that they lack. While she is unaware of the path he will choose in the future, Elias thinks that it's fine for now. The following morning, Elias barges into his room while he is still asleep. As she has become his bodyguard, Elias tends to him wherever he goes, to the point he has to tell her to go away while he's changing. Even while he's eating, she sharply observes him. This extends all the way, even outside, where Elias keeps a close eye on him and somehow smiles as a consequence. Best girl Elias counter, over 9,000. After his conversation with King Marito, the king explains that he is intrigued by Earth's ability to forecast weather, as well as the differences in their military strengths. He switches the topic to Lacra Sulf and mentions that the young man has been keeping her around. The traveler explains that it happened due to a number of different events and that he intends to make use of her. Even though Lacra is exceptionally useless while doing many things at once, her talent really shines when she prioritizes her energy on a single task. In fact, that is the reason she is considered unstoppable in battle, as her single focus is to eliminate her enemies. She even surprised Maya with her complex embroidery work at an unbelievable speed. The main issue comes with Lacra's mindset and mentality overall. Marito is impressed that the girl managed to cooperate with him to such an extent. The young man realizes that the king is fearful of Lacra converting him to the kingdom of Megis. He confirms that she is too stupid to do such a thing. The king is impressed that he was able to see through his words. They enter the royal garden, which is Marito's prized possession. They talk about the seasonal plants on Earth. The young man feels positive, thinking that the magic power could be used as a source of nutrition in this world. He even comments that the trees of the Black Demon Lord Killer Mountain were surprisingly beautiful. The young man didn't expect Marito to fall in love with gardening so much. Elias is stalking them nearby and seems bored. Marito questions if Elias also fancies admiring flowers. Elias denies such a thing and shows her interest in weapons. Both Marito and the young man chalk her down for being a weird person and switch to a different topic. Marito questions if the young man is interested in the idea of settling down with a woman. In his case, he has to marry at least 3 queens for an heir to the throne. The young man thinks that it's only expected of the royal people. Marito's father had 3 wives, and he became the only prince with 4 sisters on the side. The young man realizes that Marito basically got a free ticket to the throne, since he was the only prince of the group. Marito confirms and even states that the rest of her sisters became adventurers and fled the country. This revelation shocks the young man, who realizes that traditions don't tie the Taizu kingdom to royalty, and that no one urges them to marry. Marito is pleased and wants the young man to share their matchmaking adventures. Elias barges into the conversation and claims that the young man doesn't like young girls and fancies older women. While a man of culture spotted, he's just based. The young man feels embarrassed that she said something so profane about him. Elias concludes that he's been treating Maya respectfully and maturely out of the rest, which is why she thinks his tastes are on the older side. The younger man is stunned and tells her that it's simply because she's a senior and not because he likes older women. He considers Lacra a nuisance and can't see Wolf the same way. As for Elias, he claims not to see her as an eyesore, at least. The young man teases Elias when it comes to her femininity paired with monstrous brute strength. While they're sharing this banter, King Marito is having the time of his life enjoying the conversation. The young man deduces that Marito wants him to settle down with a woman so that he doesn't escape Taizu. Marito confirms and claims that there is no one like him, which is why he is willing to do anything for the cause. The young man tells him that he's not leaving in the meantime, but Marito is thinking long term and hopes to join him on the matchmaking adventures as a friend. They establish a new rule where one of them will have to introduce a woman altogether instead of attacking with numbers. Marito's main advantage as a king is stripped away, because this one-on-one setting evens the battlefield. They made a second rule, which was to ensure they didn't use dirty tricks. After the meeting, Elias questions why the young man stupidly involved him in his dumb game. The traveler tells her that he fully intends to find a suitable partner for King Marito. Best manipulator, best wingman. Meanwhile, Marito himself is enjoying the view of the garden with a sincere smile. The assassin makes his presence known and advises him not to smile carelessly. Marito shares his passion for spending time with someone like the traveler. Marito is still worried that he'll leave Taizu, but he really finds himself intrigued by his accomplishments. The assassin confirms that the fragile traveler is actually capable of producing outcomes that far surpass even their best knights. King Marito is caught off guard by this compliment, as the assassin never praises someone like that. The assassin explains that everyone in the country is weak in his view. Marito even states that he thought of assigning the assassin to the young man. But of course, that wouldn't be possible, because then the assassin would be unable to fulfill their contract. King Marito smiles and thinks that things will get busy from here on out. After a few days, Pope Yupero and his team arrive in the kingdom of Taizu. He greets the king with respect and apologizes for his blunder. Pope Yupero bows for the trouble caused, while King Marito states that their troubles were kept to a minimum, so it's fine. Marito alludes to the existence of Lahite and claims that their main issue is the book. Marito hands the document to Pope Yupero and claims that 3 people know about the contents of the book, including him and Ragdo, as well as one man who is capable of reading the book. Pope Yupero looks towards the young man and realizes that he is a traveler from the foreign world. He offers to shake his hand because he wants to know more about him. This is actually because Pope Yupero can see exactly how a person has lived their life. The young man doesn't feel threatened and shakes his hand. While their hands are tied together, Pope Yupero declares him a coward and mentions the traveler is trying to comprehend any situation, as well as strategizing against them. He even mentions that Earth is where people with evil intent are commonly found. His words and grasp of knowledge confirm to the young man that he's talking to a serious person. He agrees with everything Yupero mentioned. Yupero apologizes for him, and even thanks the young man for his powers in finding the demon of their country. The traveler tells him to visit the grave of Gazan, who became a victim of their affairs instead. The traveler seems to be interested in Lilissa, as he questions if they've met each other before. Lilissa remarks that they haven't, as this is the first time. Because of his suspicions, the young man wants to confirm his doubts. He tells them that he, too, wants to perform a similar technique to Pope Yupero and test it on everyone. The task is simple. They will have to repeat the exact words he says. He tells Pope Yupero to confess his identity. After that, the young man turns to Archbishop Uka and tasks him the same. The clumsy archbishop stutters and says the same. The young man explains that he is mixing lies and truth to measure their confidence. Turning to Yox, he uses him to confess that he is the captain of the Meji's Holy Knights. After clearing Yox, the young man finally turns to Lilissa, the subject of his interest. First, he tells her to repeat a declaration of being Pope Yupero, then Archbishop Uka, and lastly, Captain Yox. Lilissa complies until the young man stops and shockingly tells Lilissa to repeat the words "I am Lahite." His words paralyze those who are standing in the room, even Lilissa, who is speechless. Lilissa carves a demonic grin on her face, hinting that Lahite is still alive.